ji, we can start?
Yeah, we can start.
Yeah, friends, this is Vivek Agarwal, convener at Acae CA Study Circle. I welcome everyone who has joined this session. And we have some 33 people and more will be joining in large numbers. In the meantime, we can start with the session. Friends, we would like to inform that ACA is regularly doing various programs on this virtual forum. And we are having now topic-specific sessions, like we are having a banking session today. Similarly, we have various programs which we had in past and which are in line in future. So with this, we would like to inform that ACA CA Study Circle is having various virtual programs, and today is the second day of this banking VCM, and our chairman Hariram Agarwal ji is there with us. I would request Hariram Agarwal ji to kindly play the ICI motto and start the session. Hariram ji.
Yes, sir. Just a minute.
I think there's some technical difficulty at his level. I am playing at my end itself.
Just a minute.
येष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति येष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्द्वैता
Thank you, friends. I hand over the proceeding to our chairman Hariram Agarwal ji of Banking Conclave. Hariram ji, you are not audible. Hari bhaiya, unmute yourself and kindly start the proceeding.
Thank you, Vivek ji, convener of our ACI CA Study Circle EIRC, Vivek ji Agarwal, and CA Anup Sangai, president of ACI Banking Committee, co-convener chairman Ratan Banka ji, and the most learned guest speaker, Mr. Sanjeev Pandey, who is Deputy General Manager NCLT, State Bank of India, SARG, CC Mumbai, friends and all the friends who have joined virtually this today's second day of our VCM on NextGen Banking Transforming India. Friends, just to brief, this was a 2 days program for 3 hours each, and yesterday we had a program.
एक बार देखिए तो मेरा आवाज क्यों नहीं आ रहा है?
Mute yourself, Beena ji, mute yourself.
Hello. In which we had learned speaker C. Amarjit Chopra, who happens to be past president of ICI. Second speaker were C. Sri Bahram and Vakil, co-founder of AZB and Partners, Mumbai, advocate, and Mr. Suhas Sinha, who is partner of AZB House, Mumbai. All the three learned speakers had a very nice session yesterday, And friends, today we have also three speakers in a row for 3 hour. First is we do have Mr. Sanjeev Pandey, DGM, NCLT SBI. Thereafter we do have CA Arjit Chakravarti, practicing chartered accountant, and thereafter we do have CA Sanjay Kumar Agrawal, Senior Director, Care Ratings Limited. Friends, as circulated to all of you, the first session will be taken by Sanjeev sir, and the topic is expectations of bankers from resolution professionals and vice versa. Each and every bankers has certain expectations from the resolution professional. Similarly, we the professionals, be it IRP, be it RP, be it due diligence auditors, forensic auditors, valuers, liquidators, and professional engaged in loan syndication, compliance supporting professional, and other similar professional, and vice versa. So, respected sir will be throwing light on the both the aspects from, because he is a very senior person, and he has been throughout this NCLT process with SBI, and more and more knowledge in this regard will be shared with us. Second speaker is Sri Arjit Chakravarti. He will be dealing in the central bank digital currency. Friends, this is the digital currency which RBI proposes to launch in lieu of cryptocurrencies. It's a totally a new concept in Indian economy. How it will be operational and other important aspect will be delivered by Arjit sir. And thereafter, CA Sanjay Kumar Agrawal is there, who is Senior Director in Care Rating. He will be deliberating on needs and benefits from credit rating for borrowers, in which we will be getting enriched by his deliberation on how you can plan for better credit ratings. And since better credit ratings will ultimately give a yield to the MSME as well as large borrowers. So it will be ultimately beneficial to MSME and large borrowers. So this is the basic scheme of the today's program. Now I will give a brief introduction of first learned speaker of this today's program. He is Sri Sanjeev Pandey, Deputy General Manager NCLT of State Bank of India, Stressed Assets Resolution Group of State Bank of India, and for NCLT division under Corporate Center Mumbai. Mr. Pandey started his career with State Bank as a probationary officer in 1986, and during his 35 years with SBI has worked on different assignments in commercial banking, project finance, stress and asset management, restructuring and rehabilitation of weak and sick units under BIFR, CDR and other schemes. Mr. Pandey also carries international banking exposure as head of treasury at SBI Singapore from 2009 to 2014. Mr. Pandey has a long association with IBC. He was on deputation to IBBI during 2016-17 and was associated in drafting of IBBI regulations on CIRP, voluntary and liquidation, IP and IU regulations, etc. Mr. Pandey arranged a number of training workshops at IBBI for newly registered insolvency professionals. He was also part of various working groups on personal insolvency, cross-border, and group insolvency. He is currently heading the NCLT division of SBI Corporate Center. Mr. Pandey is responsible for initiation and monitoring more than 900 SBI cases of CIRP and liquidation under IBC. His role includes drafting of bank's IBC policy, SOPs, and guidelines, provides expert opinion in IBC matters, impanelment of insolvency professionals and insolvency lawyers, and training of bank officials in IBC. Mr. Pandey has authored the official training manual on resolution of stressed assets under IBC and other acts for SBI officials. with this small profile, we welcome Sir Sanjeev Pandey to this today's program. And now I request Sri Sanjeev Pandey sir to please deliberate the topic. Thank you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav. And thank you, ACA, for giving me this opportunity to be before you. And I can see the considerable interest from participants. So thank you for having me here. So let me go back to my days with IBBI. We were sitting together with Mr. Sahu. So one incident or other, one thing I remember, somebody asked us, sir, when you are writing this code, and IP is going to be a very, very important pillar of this code. So where will we get these IPs from? So suddenly, because you need very high acumen officials, high acumen professionals for this job, where will you get it? So I think Dr. Sahu used to say that when during the history, some stage cancer was diagnosed that this is some kind of a disease. Okay, so but we never had oncologists at that time. So ordinary physicians and doctors, they started treating cancer. Gradually, the knowledge of this disease developed, and we have a separate field of oncology. And now even in that field, there are separate fields of treatment and separate fields of different kind of cancer. So something similar, he says, will happen in IBBI, IBC also, where of course we will start with some generalists, and then gradually some expertise will arrive and people will learn on the job. And now we are here today, I think almost 5 years since the promulgation of IBC in December 2016. We have around, I think today, more than 4,000 insolvency professionals registered with IBBA. And some have done some exceedingly large transactions like SR Steel also was successfully completed. And Bhushan Steel, Bhushan Power, we have seen successes in many cases. These were kind of transactions which nobody could have thought of that they can be resolved in a court of law. That was the situation before the advent of IBC. So bankers generally had only option of DRT or SURFACE, which doesn't really matter for these kind of cases where you have a debt of 50,000 crore. If you take it to DRT, you are dead. So you don't recover anything after 10 years. So I think this law has given a lot of confidence to the professionals and a lot of knowledge also. And now we have a number of case laws, case studies, which are helping in developing professionals, lawyers, even the other support officials, accountants, forensic auditors, everybody is gaining from this law. And a huge ecosystem has developed around this law. And as I see it sitting here from SBI, we see a lot of coming things because of IBC. One is that this secondary sale of loans. So very soon you will see that these loans will be sold like the bonds and investments in the market. It will be a secondary market for loans. I think RBI is working on that, and IBC provides a platform. Then an entire new valuation profession is developed. Earlier, valuers were there, but they were not really treated as professionals. They were just giving some kind of report. Nobody bothered about that report, and these reports were the reason of many NPS, because those were not very up to the mark. Now we have an entire new profession where you have different kind of valuers. They have valuation standards. So IBC is leading to development of so many things like new kind of finances. We see litigation finance coming into India now. We see some kind of compromise funding happening now. So many people who want to avoid, many promoters who want to avoid the IBC, they're going for compromise funding. So all these things are possible only due to IBC. But then again, coming back to the IB part, so they are the most important pillars of this law. Of course, they have to work along with COC, with the NCLT members, NCLT judge, and within the confines of the regulations and the code. But again, we see some very good professionals developing over the last 5 years. They have done an excellent job. And we see some people who have really brought disgrace to the profession also. Some people were here with the objective of making fast buck. So they have also brought some disrepute to the profession. But on the whole, we are happy because that is how it is when you have 4,000 professionals. They'll have all kind of people there. But my optimism comes from the fact that almost 200 to 300 very good quality professionals have developed in this period, and they are getting due respect in the market from the banks, and also repetitive business from the bank. So when as a bank, what we expect, that is the topic given to me, we expect a lot. Actually, we expect that RP should come in as some kind of Hanumanji who brings the Sita also back from Sri Lanka. He will do some Lanka Dahan. He will bring that Sanjeevani booties, all kind of things. That is our expectation. But coming down to the level of earth, so because actually if you look at IBC, IP or the RP, the role he has been given is very, very vast. He has to be the manager of the operations of the CD. He has to run the operation. He has to maintain the value of the operation, and there should be all compliance with all the laws of the land, all exchange laws, everything, SEBI laws. Then he has to face the music in the sense of COC. Every COC member will be there to pull his leg, but he has to have their confidence. Then he has to bring in resolution plans. He has to keep on the right side of law, because IBBI, the big brother, is watching all the time. I think few days back, IBBI came out with some very stringent regulation where for every wrong step, IP will have some financial penalty, and these penalties are running into few lakhs. If one IP is getting maybe 10 lakh fees, I think he may end up paying 30 lakhs as penalties and lose his license also. So those kind of scenario, it is very, very tough job to do. So we appreciate your job, and sitting at my desk, sitting in SBI, at least whoever has dealt with me, they will be vouch for me that I have always kept a soft corner for my IPs, because I know they are working on a kind of a burning ship. They are trying to bring that ship on shore, where the promoters are out, the creditors are just interested in their recovery, everybody else is in recovery. So this person has to like bring down the fire, he has to bring that ship to the coast. It's a really tough job. At the same time, since you are in the profession, whoever you are there or want to be there, so once you are in there are job hazards. So we should enter a profession with full knowledge of the job hazard. Like I have in my banking career, my job hazard is that if I give a wrong loan and it becomes NPA, so some agencies, some investigation will be done against me. Why you did it? This is wrong. So I have to do a proper thing. At the same time, I know some of the loans will go back. So I have to do entire thing with the system procedure of the bank, so that tomorrow bank cannot find a fault in my procedure. Exactly, that is my suggestion to all of you. Whenever you take up an assignment, follow the law, follow the procedure exactly by the script. Follow the regulations, although it is a bit difficult, but then that is what it will save you at the end. If you, even if something happens, tomorrow IBBI comes after you, so you can explain your action. So coming at the stage of bidding, I see a lot of competition these days because of the COVID. Number of cases for CIP have gone down. Even more cases are coming for OTS. So now, because most of the defaulting businessmen have also understood that in case we don't play with the bank, we will lose our business. So they are coming forward with OTS. So we have competition in IBC with compromise schemes, and with other like SurfaceE also has become more effective. So IBC is one of the options. And what we have experienced in last 3-4 years is that with the threat of IBC, we can reach a very good compromise also with the promoter, which is very cost effective and which is time effective. Like it can complete it in between 2 and 3 months maximum, whereas court may take over 1 year. But then, as a suggestion to the professionals who are bidding for whatever offers or the transactions are there in the market, my suggestion is that don't bid too low. Don't bid be too competitive, because then you are killing the profession. What we have seen is that I know CRP takes a lot of legwork, lot of expenses, lot of support is required by way of sub-staff. So if you quote a very, very low amount for a particular transaction, then ultimately you will end up doing some hanky-panky to cover your cost, which will lead to the lack of confidence of creditors, the restrictions from IBBI, and so many other problems. So like in a business, if you take too much loan and too much little equity and your capital cost is too high, ultimately business may not survive. Similarly, in your business, if you undercut too much in your fees and expenses at the initial stage just to get a transaction, then I feel that is counterproductive. Ultimately, you will end up paying from your pocket and then also not justify your job. So that is first advice to you, and our expectation is, I don't want you to bid too low, because you may be thinking that bank want that we want cheap people. No, we want competent people for handling our IVC matters. Even if like in the SR Steel case, the cost of CRP was something like 35 crores. Even the RP may have made few crores. We don't mind, because ultimately he got us a resolution of 42,000 crores. My bank's recovery was by entire principal and some interest also. So everybody is happy. So that's why I said quoting too low and then compromising on your quality, compromising on your delivery, compromising on your service is not a very professional way of doing things. So always bid after properly calculating your cost of transactions. You may be engaged in this transaction maybe for 1 year, 15 months. You include your professional time that will be dedicated. Don't go after too many transactions, because then you will not be able to provide justice to all the transactions. Take whatever you can assimilate, whatever you can handle. So my sense is that good IP, he can handle maybe 3 to 4 CRP transactions, although recently IBBI allowed up to 10 CRPs. But my sense is, looking at more than 900 transactions, that one transaction, good quality transaction where the operations are there in the company, is good enough to book you for around 12 to 13 for 15 months. You are full-time engaged. So even if you take 3 transactions, I think it's beyond capacity. You will be bringing a lot of pressure. So that is first advice. Second stage, once the matter is admitted and claims are received, we have seen that the IPs are not very objective at the verification of claim stage. So there comes your real professional acumen, that first of all, you should be very, very independent. Don't get influenced by the fact that SBI has appointed you as the RP or some other bank or operation writer. It is immaterial who has nominated you for the position. Once you are the RP or IRP, you are an independent person. Maintain that independence, and again strictly go by the script of the code. We have seen people accepting parties as financial creditors without proper justification. I remember one of our case, Fortune Pharma, where we complained against the RP in the court, where he accepted 2 corporate creditors as the financial creditors. Actually, this transaction happened just 5 days before the filing of this CRP petition. So 5 days before, all these loans were given by the promoters to this company. Then promoters transferred these loans to a third party, and RP accepted them as a financial creditor. We went to the court. Court turned around the RP's acceptance, gave a verdict in our favor, and also gave very, very adverse strictures against the RP. Ultimately, this gentleman lost his license. So that's what I want to say. Acceptance of claims is a very, very critical process, which ultimately decides on the constitution of COC and who has what right. So be very fair and very, very independent while accepting the claims. Do it in a very, very clinical way, so that wrong people, because a lot of influence will come from all sides, a lot of pressure will come. But that is how it is difficult to maintain independence, but you have to maintain that independence. Then comes the conduct of COC. So you carry the COC for almost 5 to 6 months, sometime up to 9 months. What we have seen that a conflict appears between the COC and the RP, and it is totally counterproductive. So when there is a conflict or lack of confidence between in the RP by COC, then the chances of resolution goes down by multiple times. So how to develop that confidence? First of all, I think you should start the process not by showing that you know the law too much, but rather sharing your knowledge with the COC. Because COC, every time people like Mr. Pandey or somebody who is handling multiple accounts, they are saying that is not a possibility because different time, different branches will go to NCLT. So there may be many people sitting in COC who have no clue or very little idea about the law. So I think the RP should spend some time at the beginning of every COC meeting, at least in the first meeting of COC, spend some 1.5 hours giving a brief outline presentation on the IBC, the CRP process, what is the role of COC in that, what is your role in that process, how you have accepted the claims, what are the, how you have done the process. So you have to explain that. To give that 1.5 hour presentation to COC, so two things will happen. COC will understand your level, your acumen. At the same time, they will be clear that what is going to happen. This presentation should also have some calendar or timeline for different actions. Okay, today we start, this is the first COC. When will you be providing a draft IM to the COC? When do you expect to get a valuation report? So you give a time chart. These are the milestones we will achieve going forward. So when you do this, you create a calendar, a timeline for yourself and also for the COC. Then you will find it easier to stick to that timeline. We have seen that RPs are not very regular in calling COC because I don't know what they fear. But my suggestion is that at least one COC must be called every month. Now this Zoom and meets and everything, this is convenient also. Earlier it was difficult for bankers and the RP to get together frequently. But now I think it is much more convenient to have a COC. Make use of this electronic facility, but call meeting frequently. Share the agenda upfront. Very, should be in plain words. It should not be complicated. And while preparing the minutes, be very honest. So whatever is discussed in the minutes, we have seen many RPs are manipulating the minutes or not capturing the entire course of discussion. I think that leaves a lot to be desired. So always, I think you should request one of the bankers that, okay, sir, my gentleman, my person is recording the minutes. You may also, as the lead bank or somebody, may also bring somebody to record the minutes so that later both the minutes can be shared. 1 minutes are noted by my person, 1 minute is noted by the COC nominee. One person can be hired from the market, even COC can bring in one of the employee, he can just jot down the. So that is a good practice, I think. Later, when in the evening, you share notes with that person so that entire stream of discussion is captured in the note. So that is one thing where we find a lot of dispute, lot of discussion going on between the RP and the banks. Some banks said, I said this, I raised this point, that was not captured. So make it a point that your minutes should be reflective of the actual discussion and should not be a cause of dispute with the creditors. Then second thing is that keep a conducive atmosphere, because as you know, like in parliament, it is the duty of the government to run the parliament. Even like opposition can raise the any point, they can make halla gulla, they can make a protest, come to the well, everything they can do. But it is the job of the government that parliament is run. So same is your job. Even if some of the COC members may or may not be interested in a smooth running, it is your professional acumen, your responsibility to run the COC in a smooth and congenial atmosphere. So that I think requires some kind of behavioral skills. So that is very, very important. You should develop communication skills and behavioral skills. So once you have that, you can appreciate why some person is behaving in a particular way and how you can handle him. And always be fair to everybody. Don't try to indicate that I am inclining towards some of the bank because he's a large bank or he is a large share. Even if like State Bank is having 70% share, don't think that the other 30% are like non-entities. They should be given due regard. So that is my suggestion. So that is how your independence comes to the actual thing visible. Then comes the resolution plan. Many times resolution plan comes, we have seen IPs coming back with some kind of withdrawal proposals even after resolution plan has been presented or EOI has been issued, plans have started coming. Some of the RPs they are still putting a proposal for withdrawal of CIRP. So that is not a very professional behavior. The regulation says that the withdrawal can happen only up to the stage of, say, EOI. If you still want to have a withdrawal, then you are not the authority for that. You are bound by regulations. So RP has no right to deviate from the regulations, rules, or the code provisions. So what you can do is maximum you approach the court, seek their approval. That sir, there is a proposal from the promoters, but since we have already issued EOI, so we want to consider the proposal. You get given, but don't decide on your own. I have seen some cases where just under the influence of some of the promoters, IPs even as late as the stage of resolution plan received, they are not opening the plans just because there is a pressure from the promoter that no, you first push for under section 12. So those kind of things are not professional behavior. I would say follow the law, follow the script, be firm when you, even if somebody gets angry with you that you are not following his lead, but no, you are an independent person. You should show that law is supreme. We have to maintain the sanctity of the code. Ultimately, all this ecosystem, infrastructure, IBC will remain only when we maintain the sanctity of the code. And that is, you are the critical part of it. So, must also always uphold the law. And don't try these kind of things. Even if something comes up, go to the court. Second thing is, don't jump to the court for every other decision. Only for any critical, because courts, as you all know, NCLT, I am sitting as in charge of NCLT cases here. The NCLTs are highly overburdened. And today, I think after the retirements as on 31st July, they may not be having more than 20 members as of now in almost 21 benches. So they are highly short-staffed. They have like thousands of cases pending with them. Now the cases of personal insolvency are piling up with them. So don't expect that for every decision they will be sitting and guiding you. No, they are not there to handhold you. You have cleared the exam. You have you are provided training time to time by the IBBI. You are supposed to know the law, the amendments, everything. You have to be up to update with the law. So, and then you have to decide. Lot of powers of court are given to you to decide. So don't run to the court that sir, you take this decision for me. No, that is the wrong way of doing things. Then you are not a professional. Ultimately, when plans come, what we see is that RP has to present the plan before COC. But what shocks me or saddens me is that RPs themselves, many of them coming from the reputed profession like chartered accountants and company secretary, so they should be knowing the law that resolution plan is nothing but a kind of restructuring or revival proposal. Okay. So after whatever changes have been made, amendment have been made in the code, one thing fundamental to a resolution plan is that it cannot be a plan for liquidation under the garb of resolution. So that remains. So that is the fundamental test of a resolution plan, whether it is a resolution plan or it is a liquidation plan given as a resolution plan. One matter I'll share with you coming from one of our branch, where this industrial land of the CD, one of the builders submitted a plan. Okay, anybody can submit, no problem. What the plan was that, sir, I will get this plot converted to a residential this thing. Yeah. So you have this plan. So he said, sir, I will convert it into residential land, and then I'll split it into various plots and I'll sell the plots. So I raised the issue, okay, how come this is a resolution plan? This is basically a dissolution plan. Okay, you will be, after selling the plot, nothing remains in the company, and then you will dissolve the company. So this cannot come. So these are simple things. I think RPs as professionals, you should see these basic things in the plan. Another plan I'll tell you came to me, where the party gave actually two plans to COC. So ultimately, most of the plan come to me whenever they are submitted for vetting, so that I have to see whether they comply with the law. And that's how I get to see like many plans. So what this plan said is, sir, there will be a kind of a demerger in this company. So one of the unit will be demerged, and this unit will remain, and this will be a viable unit. Okay, fine. But it also submitted a plan under section 230 of Companies Act, 232 to 232, saying that, sir, this is the demerger plan under Companies Act. And he is putting both the plans, the plan under section 30 of IBC, which is the resolution plan, and also this plan, which is basically under section 230 of Companies Act, which has a altogether different purpose and different mode of approval. So I said, no, how can you give two plans together? Okay, no, sir, this is just an annexure to this plan. Okay, it cannot be annexure also. Because we are looking at this plan from the COC angle. COC is only empowered to vote on a plan under section 30 of IBC. Not any other plan. They don't have the power. They cannot, even if they want to approve a 230 plan, they cannot, because that's under Companies Act, not under IBC. Secondly, even if you put at an NextGen and tomorrow you tell the court that COC is approved, then court will reject this entire plan. So there is no domain for COC to work on the. So these kind of things, I think IPs should appreciate, rather than bringing such plans to the table, to the COC. That much, I think, understanding must have come by now. We are already 4.5 years into the IBC, and a lot of Supreme Court, High Court, NCLT judgments have come. These kind of simple thing, I think you should know. Third thing about plan is, most of the plans don't come with a feasibility and viability report. Now, what is feasibility and viability? I think as professionals or as accounting professionals, some of you may appreciate that every business to survive, it has to be technically and financially feasible and viable. Technically means that if it is using some technology, and that technology is already obsolete. Like I'll tell you I'll share one experience of Moser Baer. Many of you must be knowing Moser Baer India Limited. This company was into manufacturing compact disc. Now, if somebody comes with a plan, sir, I will put in some, say, 50 crore in this unit, and you give me as a COC another 50 crore, or maybe some other person will give me 50 crore, and we will revive this unit. So now you appreciate that this technology of CD is already obsolete. Now CD technology has moved to initially to flash drive to hard disk. Now hard disk become very cheap. Now even hard disk is obsolete because most of us are using the online memory. Like your Apple provides you some 2 GB memory on the platform. All other this thing is available on the cloud. So your memory is available. So now there is no use of a CD. So how can this unit be revived? So if IP is accepting this kind of plan where he knows that this technology is already obsolete, like Another case of Moser were solar, where they were manufacturing some solar chips. Ultimately, their technology became obsolete very fast. At least CD, they made some money, run the unit for 15 years, and then it became sick. But in Moser Solar, even before the unit could start production, or very soon after, it went into crisis because the technology became obsolete or the prices in China and US crashed. So they could not compete. These kind of units, it is very difficult to revive without a proper input by way of new technology, latest technology. So if some plan is coming without looking into the technology aspect and then viability, business viability, and most of the time I'm shocked to see is that there is no business plan at all. Many plans come, sir, he is paying us 100 crore and he is taking the remand. Where is the business plan? No, sir, no, this is the business plan. Banks will be paid and he will take. This is not a resolution plan. Resolution plan means that there should be an underlying business plan. That underlying business plan should have some reasonable assumptions. Those assumptions should be tested against the real actual things in the market. Then the projection should be tested and stress tested. Not only tested. Tested means it should show a profitability during the next 3, 4, 5 years. Then that profitability should be sufficient to keep this unit running and viable. For that, we have, like we use in accounting, so many ratios like DSCR ratio, EBITDA, your interest coverage ratio. So many ratios are there to check whether this unit will be, even on projections, we can check whether this unit will be viable. That is exactly what we used to do at the project appraisal stage. Same thing we have to do here. But what pains me is that many of the IPs who are taking the job of RP, they don't appreciate this. When you get a resolution plan, these are some basic things you should see. But they are just bringing in a plan which is one-time payment. Nobody cares about the business plan, whether unit, what happens to the unit later. It can be a liquidation plan also. So these kind of things, I think we don't expect from the RPs. I think they should upgrade their game and bring us some good plans. Also, what we have seen is that IPs are not able to attract too much interest from the market. So I think the next level of game in this IBC regime is going to be where those IPs who have good investment banking teams with them, they will be more successful. Because ultimately, your efficiency or your competency is being assessed by banks like us on the basis of number of plans you could bring on the table and the value of plan you could get approved. And value of the plan is directly proportional to the number of plans. So like if you have a single plan for a unit, that will be very close to liquidation value, because we know most of the time RPs disclose liquidation despite the law regulation that we should not disclose. It becomes a public knowledge. We can blame anybody, even COC members, for leaking, but it happens. What we have seen is that wherever there is a one applicant, the plan will be just next to the liquidation value. You would have seen that in the Videocon case. When you bring at least 2 plans, then the value may be up to say 140, 150% of the liquidation value. My suggestion is that you should upgrade your game, have your investment banking teams, have your people in the market, so that whenever you come out with this EOI, that should be spread out, advertised in such a way that at least you get some 40, 50 EOIs. And finally, after the due diligence, all that thing, whatever the investor will do, you should be able to get at least minimum 5 to 10 plans. Then you are a good RP, you will be able to command good fees. Because we are not, as banks, let me share with you, first time under IBC, we have put in a condition that we will not fix a fees for the RP. And you may have experienced, many of you who are in this state, you may have experienced that. There is no upper limit on the fees of RP. Only thing we say is that there will be a competitive bidding. So competition, automatically the fees will come down. That is one thing. Second thing, for selection criteria, our matrix, when we do the calculation for selecting RP, my matrix says 80% of the marks will be given for competence, only 20% for the fee. So even if your fees is higher than double than some next RP, but your competency, your track record is good, you are likely to get the transaction. So hence I suggest that rather than quoting very low fees, you upgrade your standard, bring in competency, bring in your team to have investment banking kind of a business, so that you are able to bring multiple plans on the table. And there is a competition, because this is entirely a market oriented process. There is a stiff competition among the players, among the bidders. Ultimately we'll end up getting a fair value for our asset. That is the expectation, final expectation from the bank side as ARP. So I hope you will appreciate that. And then, of course, in case the unit goes into liquidation, I think you should take care of presenting a brief listing of liquidation cost, fees and all, so that the COC, in the last COC, you are able to approve budget for the liquidation. Even during for resolution plan also, now ABI provides that they should approve a liquidation budget. So you should be presenting that. That is a very important part of resolution also. And once you are appointed as liquidator, again, your responsibility only goes up, not down. Then you are entirely responsible for the entire assets. So again, your investment banking teams, your collections in the market become handy in getting the best value at the earliest. So these are some of the suggestions maybe I just wanted to make. This law is a very, very commercial law. If you read the code, I don't think you can understand the law. You have to understand it from the wearing the spectacles of a banker or a businessman. Unless you do that, because while running the business, you have to become a businessman. You have to step into the shoes of a businessman. And while assessing a plan, you have to step into the shoes of a bank. So you have to read it like a brownfield advanced proposal. So that is where I suggest that you should enhance your skill, and a lot of marketing is required not only for getting the business. Many people come to me, sir, get us something. I say that this is purely a market-oriented business. More you reach out to my branches, more you are able to deliver. So if my branch gives you one transaction and you are able to deliver a very good deal in that, remain assured that that branch will come after you every time, come to you for every other transaction, most of the times. So it is only your way, how you present yourself, how you deliver, and how you handle it. That is all I have to say. I think I have completed my time. So thank you, SEA, for inviting me. I am open to any questions now if somebody has. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev Pandey sir, for nicely deliberating on the topic expectation of bankers from the uh, resolution professionals. And you have made a threadbare analysis on the topic. Now, I invite from the audience any question related to the topic with Mr. Pandey for the benefit of all the participants. Either you can put the question in chat box or you raise your hand so that you can directly ask the question from Sir Pandey sir. Sir, there is only one question from my side.
Yes.
Huge penalties are being scheduled for the professionals, and in some cases it is 25% of your professional fees which you will be getting. So suppose after say 4 times such error, if some error is occurred or some mistake is done, and again penalty is levied, so that penalty will be from professional's pocket. So whatever he is earned or supposed to earn is gone away, and he will have to pay from his own pocket. So monetary loss, time, energy, and peace of mind loss. So what's your view, and what's the expectation of professional from the IBC, IP, or the COC or the bankers?
Well, I think I made in my initial address, I made it clear that if you follow this script, so this law requires, and I think what IBBI has done a good job. Whatever you say, the entire ecosystem, I cannot say the NCLTs have really delivered to the expectations, or the RPs have actually delivered to the expectation. But one thing I can say that IBBI has rather more than delivered. We were not expecting that they will be so much overactive that for everything they'll have a regulation. But that is the thing, because you are the only original regulated professionals. Now I think even chartered accountants are being regulated by that NAFRA, and other valuers are being evaluated this thing. But you are the first ones. So, and stake is very high in your case. Certainly you understand that asset like SR Steel, which the value was around 50 to 60,000 crore for the creditors, maybe 56,000 crore. It was handed over to one RP. He was for almost 2.5 years the owner of that asset on behalf of COC. Now just imagine that what kind of damage such person can do. So you have to be regulated very tightly. And even the number of complaints against RP with IBPI also, I know I keep looking at the orders coming out, some penal orders. I do reading of that. So I think there are issues, like sometimes RPs are, like in some cases I've seen they have given too much fees to the consultancy who is attached to them, or the IPE attached to them. So I think that is not a fair dealing. First of all, when you charge something, it should be reasonable. So reasonable means that you should be able to justify the creditors and everybody that what I am charging is reasonable. For that, I think your professional this thing comes in, how you explain that to the, and then somebody is not complaining if you are charged some fees. And then I think what you have to do is, in future, there are some kind of insurances in the market. So if you really want to protect yourself from the financial penalties, I think go for those kind of insurance, so that they will take care of your entire penalties. In case you have it, they will cover after for against some premium. But then important part is that you do your job diligently. One thing I always suggest the RP, that maintain one diary with you always. Whenever you talk to somebody, immediately note down what I spoke with this gentleman. Whenever you do expenditure, immediately note down what was the expense I committed. All those things will come very handy. And evening, jot them down in your PC or wherever you do it in a diary, so that you have a daily record of what you did in your entire 9 months, 6 months, or 1 year of CARP. So try that habit of maintaining a diary. So evening, every time you do something, just note down in a jotting book. Evening, make a separate diary for every separate case. Put some diary. Date-wise, record what you did in that day. What were the expenses? What was the discussion with whom? What were the achievement? What were the milestone achieved? So this kind of every evening one RP should write. I think these simple habits will save you from so many things, because when something, even some complaint goes to IBBI, they ask you something, this diary will come very handy, will tell you exactly what has happened on that. And I tell you one thing, that when you write diary, you also reflect on your actions and your thinking. So in the evening, you actually, while writing down, you reflect on what I did correctly or wrongly. Immediately next day, you do a corrective action. I think that is one suggestion from my side. So thank you.
Sir, there is one question from Mr. Neeraj Agrawal.
Uh-huh.
COC plays a very important role in CRP.
Yes.
However, in most of the cases, the bankers attending the COC meeting have little idea about the process and
Yes.
no authority to take decisions. what actions are being taken by the banks in this regard?
So I made it very clear that, yeah, I accept remote. I will not say about SBI people, because in our bank, we classes, like I have taken your session today. Every month, I take 2 to 3 sessions in one of the programs, training program, or my people. At least 50 to 60 AGM, chief manager level officers handling these advances, they attend those programs. So we train every month at least 50 to 60 people in IBs and latest things. So there are separate sessions for liquidation, for pre-pack, for personal insolvency, for CAL. So we give them a detailed training, like 3-hour session on each subject. But that may not be the position with the other banks. That we also feel that most of the banks look at SBI people for taking decisions. So we are prepared. We are the bank where we have as I must have heard in my introduction, I have prepared a manual here for people. So even if somebody takes that manual to the COC, he can just go through that. He will understand. Within, say, 10 pages, if you read, he will understand the entire IBs. So those kind of things, we have provided them tools. We have circulars on the RP fees, RP engagement, on impanelment, everything. We have circulars. Even resolution plan, we have format of resolution plan available in the system. We have standard operating procedure for CRP, standard operating procedure for liquidation, policy on IBC, everything we have. So State Bank is one bank which is very, very forward-looking and proactive. So we have done this. When I came back from IBBA, immediately they created the NCLT desk for me. I'm here, and I have developed all those things. So our bank is that way very, very like forward-looking. But that may not be the advantage or position in the other banks. What we have tried to, like you rightly said, the decision making is tardy, because in the bank, decisions are mostly taken by committees. I don't know how many of you may be knowing. There are no more any powers to individuals in the bank. Even a small level, like your housing loan also, may be going to some committee for sanction, not to an individual. And any loan above maybe 1 crore or 50 lakhs may be sanctioned by a committee. It may be a committee of branch level also, where a branch manager is sitting and 2 officers, but they are a committee. So individual cannot take it, but whereas COC only individual attends. So he is not able to take a decision. What we have done in SBI to overcome this problem, because IBC requires that a decision is taken on the spot or maybe within 48 hours. That is the constraint of IBC. Whereas our bank system requires that every proposal should go to a committee. And if proposal goes to a committee, it has to be presented like a proposal. It may be a 50, 30, 40 page proposal. And then somebody has to present before the committee. Then they will raise questions and he has to give satisfactory replies. So what we have done, we have divided these decisions taken by COC into 3 groups. So some are very critical decisions, like approval of a resolution plan where there may be a huge haircut. Then giving interim finance, that is you are taking more exposure. That is a critical decision. Rejecting a plan and taking the company to liquidation, that is a critical decision. So these 3-4 decisions only, we have kept it for the committee. Only when there is a resolution plan and it has to be approved or rejected, the proposal will go to committee. So there, I think the COC also gets some time to deliberate on the plan. It is not that it is only 48 hours. Normally, when the plan, H1 plan is approved or accepted by the COC, then different banks get some 15-20 days to get it approved from their respective management. So that we have made a provision, and we also made a provision for urgent calling of meetings for this approval of plans. So anytime if there is a plan on the table, so the secretary to the committee can call a committee at a short notice. That is one. Second thing, there are some semi-critical kind of decisions where we have delegated the power to some senior officers like CGMs, GMs, and DMD. So the branch or the nominee to COC will just send a proposal to the mail, and this gentleman will give approval on the spot maybe or within 1 day. So that is another way we have cut down. So these decisions are some decisions to the semi-critical, and all non-critical decisions like routine decisions. payment of fees or deciding the fees of the RP, deciding on some CRB expenses, or simple things like there are so many decisions like that, change of RP, or calling of a meeting, reduction of the notice time period, then EOIs, RFRP, approving. These things are all given to the branch. So all the power is given to the nominee who is nominated to COC and the branch. They together can take a decision and on the spot they can. Third thing we have done is that we only depute a minimum level of AGM level office to the COC, so that a adequately senior officer goes to COC. Not like other bank, our deputy manager, manager. No, from SBI, my minimum officer which will attend COC is a AGM rank. So that brings some kind of seriousness. When AGM is sitting there, he has to deliver. So that is how we have tried to handle this. We are trying to market this through IBA to other banks also. Why not you follow our circular? You also divide this decision to different this thing and delegate the power at various levels so that this decision making delay is avoided. Yeah, thank you.
Sir, in the IBC whole process, as regards the IU, it was mentioned that multiple IUs will be created and established, but
Yes.
we find that as on date, there is only one IU. So sometimes it is problematic or insufficient information available or data available with a single IU. So what's your view from the banker's point of view about this IU, or have you ever represented government IBC for multiple IU?
No, my sense is that one IU is sufficient for the kind of cases we have. Total cases filed in, I think, IBC maybe 70, 80,000 or maybe 1 lakh. I don't have the data, but that is my general sense. And pending cases are again maybe ranging into 10 to 12,000 at present. So for less than 1 lakh, this IU, NESL, they have invested hugely in their data systems, in computers, servers and all that. And their recovery from such a small number of cases will be very, very few because we don't pay them much fees. And now I think around 200 banks in India, they are providing data to the IUs. So all data in respect of our loans exposures are being shared with this IU at monthly or maybe fortnightly intervals. So, and then gradually they will have to reach out to other operational creditors also in other NBFCs. But I don't think that market is so big as of now to require more than one IU. It may not be feasible. So I think IU is sufficient, and wherever we are dealing, like we go to them for default certificate. If our data is being provided, they don't take more than 1 day to provide this. So I don't think there is a delay. They have the information, it is provided. So it is basically a computer system. You see, it is like whatever data you have fed them, that only will come out in the shape of a certificate. So if you have not fed any data, how can they provide? So it is like computer, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you feed them, they will give it back.
As a professional, sometimes the professionals are not getting full of the cooperation from promoters, directors, or the company side. And sometimes even they lose cases and against some false cases to divert the attention of the professional. And sometimes life threatening are also given to the professional.
Yes.
Under such circumstances, what is the role of bankers to, and how do you people as a banker as a whole support the professional under such circumstances, sir?
So see, our fundamentals are very clear that you are our man on the job. So you are taking that risk. You are fighting on our behalf. We are very clear. Ultimately, it is a fight between an individual and a Goliath, like a company. It can be a company of the size of SR Steel or Bhushan Steel also. And it is an individual, like SR Steel was Satish Gupta versus SR Steel. So there is no match as such. Company can come after you in so many ways. You only mentioned one or two. I have seen that RPs have been kidnapped, RPs have been threatened, they have been geared by the employees, all those things happen. But one thing, as I said in the initial part, when you enter the profession, these are the kind of job hazards you carry. So be prepared, and then always keep the COC and the code posted. Whenever something happens, immediately file a FIR and file a application. The code is written like this. Please direct the local police authority to provide me security or whatever. That is one thing. Second thing, whenever we are required to provide a support, like one case happened in, I think, Ludhiana. So this RP went to take over the unit, and I think 5-6 very hefty guys, they were standing there with open talwars and all, sitting, you touch this gate and I will kill you, like that. So this guy was terrified. He came back, came to the branch, straight to my branch. But you see, my branch said, okay, let's go together. My branch manager took one of two CLOs, his guard along. Okay, let us see how he'll cut a State Bank DGM. Let us see. He can cut a RP. They went there. These guys were still standing. Immediately when they saw that SBI person has come, immediately they melted up. They just pushed away. So that is how we are ready to support you. But you should bring it to the notice. Our people will be there. And I think even a local police station cannot avoid, if SBI calls them, tell them that we want force company. But you bring it to our notice, we will certainly support. Any other question?
Yeah. In case of personal guarantee, given the low possibility realization, what are the expectations of banks from IPs, and how do you see it moving forward? Personal guarantee, particularly.
Personal guarantee, can you repeat the question in between? I just lost.
Sorry. In case of personal guarantee, given the low possibility of realization, what are the expectations of from IPs, and how do you see it moving forward?
Yeah, actually, we are also not very clear that what will come out of this. But 2-3 things we are doing. One is that we are asking the RP or the branch to engage one of the detective agencies. Okay. And now these detective agencies have also gone, I think, into this online kind of detection, where they don't go out around the colony. They'll just go to various public records and get the data pertaining to the assets of this CD or the promoters. So we hope that, and we are getting reports, like we are getting all kind of reports of how the Benami transactions have been done, how the assets have been transferred to the name of his wife or relatives and all that. So with all that kind of data, and with a solid forensic report which shows that there was a diversion, I think we will be able to capture some value from them. So we are hopeful.
Sir, what's your view about this individual insolvency?
Yeah, it is a good start, I will say. Only that it is made applicable only for person guarantor as of now, because I think it will be very difficult for the government to start it for everybody, because our judiciary or our judicial system just cannot cope up with the kind of numbers we expect. So we have already filed almost 1,000 cases of individual insolvency. So we are quite bullish, and we are also simultaneously working on some kind of compromise arrangement also. It is kind of a carrot and stick. Okay, I will show you the stick. If somebody comes forward, I have his entire asset profile with me, all his diversions he has committed. So I'll offer him a deal. Okay, ultimately I'm a commercial banker. I'm not a policeman. I'm not interested in putting you behind bar. My interest is only in recovering my money. As a banker, I'm interested in my money. So in case he is able to offer me a decent deal where whatever money he diverted from my limits and whatever hanky-panky has done, and his assets which he is hiding from me, but I now know the value of those assets. In case he is able to or ready to share some value of that out of court also, I think we will be okay. So that is our opinion on the personal insolvency. We are in any case, we will be filing for everybody. wherever it is possible. But we are also open to some kind of compromise, provided he is able to come out with a decent proposal.
Okay, 10 मिनट join कर. फोन कर रहा है.
हाँ जी. Any other question?
Yeah. One very famous case, Ruchi Soya. Ruchi Soya and case. So it was something peculiar in some aspects, and non-routine type of case was this. So what's your view about this case?
No, it was an interesting case. Ruchi Soya, I think we have got a good deal in that. Huh?
Patanjali took over them.
Yeah. So basically, it was I think from the resolution point of view, it was a good resolution. Only thing that some of the we could have got a better money had NCLT moved a bit faster. See, one of the resolution applicant backed out because it was already a 1 year delay in the court. So we expect from the court, and any applicant will expect, that this process should close within 3 months or 6 months after his application or his bid. He cannot wait for years together, for getting an approval of the NCLT. And even NCLT doesn't have to look too much into the plan. They have a very, very limited role in the resolution plan. So I think there had we got some more plans, we would have got better money. But even as of now, we have received around 50% of the dues. That is one. Second thing, the Patanjali also came back for some loan from the bank. So that is also okay for us, because ultimately whatever recovery we are making for Ruchi Soya, we had to lend this money to somebody else. So we lent it to Patanjali also. So what happened in the process, that I got for my loan of say 3,000 crore, whatever was given by the banks. We are not exactly sure what was the exact amount. So against that, we got a security of this entire unit, which was securing my loan of around more than 10 or 11,000 earlier. Now it is a security available for a loan of 3,000. So for me, it is a good deal. And this company is revived now. It is into profit. It will be generating cash. So for our side, it was a good resolution.
So thank you, sir, for your nice deliberation. We had a very lively interactive session with you. So if any other question, we can take up 1 or 2 more questions if there is any. Otherwise, our next speaker, Arijit Chakravarti, has joined. So if there is any question, we can put with Sanjeev, sir. So,
Sumit Kumar Tafadar has raised his hands. Sumit Kumar Tarafdar. Mr. Sumit Tarafdar has raised his hand. Perhaps he may have some question. I am requesting you to unmute. Mr. Sumit Tarafdar, could you please unmute yourself? Chairman Hariramji, Mr. Sumit Tarafdar, he has raised his hands. Mr. Sumit Tarafdar, you want to raise any question with the sir?
no, I think.
তো আপনাকে তো বলছে আপনার করলো রেজ হ্যান্ড করেছেন হ্যালো
Mr. Sumit Tarafdar wanted to ask any question, or else we'll move on. No, perhaps he has wrongly raised his hands. Okay, we'll move on.
So, Anupji, do you have any question to raise, or let us?
No, let's move on. So, after sir such a detailed deliberations, perhaps we may not have left with any questions. Sir deliberations is very candid and detailed one.
Certain hither and thither, certain doubts were there, which we have got clarified from the horse's mouth of Sanjeev Pandey, sir. Very nicely deliberated thread-rare analysis of different aspects of expectations of bankers from the resolution professional and vice versa. Each and every aspect practically what he has experienced in the period of this last 3 years, he has shared with us. because he is a very high profile person in the since the starting from the formation, even formation of IBC and the drafting, and he has also written book on that. So considering all this very vast and varied knowledge about this topic and matter, and the whole the audience must have got benefited from his such a nice deliberation. We thank
Sir,
you, sir.
I would like to have just one-liner introduction about ACAE. Perhaps you may be aware of. Ours is an oldest professional body in eastern part of the country, in Kolkata more particularly. ACAE, more popularly, it is called as Acae, Association of Corporate Advisors and Executives. The parent body of the study circle was formed way back in the year 1960. And our founder members includes Professor Sukumar Bhattacharya, Mr. C.A. M.C. Bhandari. We have C.A. N.K. Podarji. Now they are no more, but they were our founder members. And besides, in the previous past, former President Bharat Ratna Sri Pranab Mukherjee has also visited our ACA. He has blessed us. There are many luminaries. They have visited our office and they have blessed with their deliberations. In Kolkata, many of the industrial entrepreneurs, there are patron members like Mr. R.S. Agarwal, Mr. R.S. Goenka, the chairman and co-chairman of Imami Group, many other Mrs. Patron Group's chairman, Mr. Sanjay Budhia. There are also our patron members. So this is just a brief background about the association. So in the initial part, we have not introduced about the association. It's just for your consumption, sir. So over to the chairman, Mr. Hariram Agarwal. Sorry for my interruption, Hariramji.
Thank you. Nice. So it was a certainly nice deliberation. And once again, with our request, sir consented despite his busy schedule. And we hope, sir, such a support in future also. And we, for and on behalf of ACAE, will be offering a e-memento to Sanjeev, sir. Sanjeev, sir, this is an e-memento from and on behalf of ACAE. Sir, this is e-memento from ACAE, and many thanks for that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Now we do have second speaker of the day, CA Arjit Chakravarti with us. Mr. Arjit Chakravarti, please unmute and please, yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome,
good
sir.
evening. Welcome.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Thank you. Sir.
Welcome. Good evening. Welcome. So we had just completed this session on key expectation of bankers from resolution professional and vice versa, on which Mr. Sanjeev Pandey, DGM, NCLT, State Bank of India, SARG, CC Mumbai has deliberated in detail. Now we do have CA Arjit Chakravarti, practicing chartered accountant, Kolkata. He will be deliberating the central bank digital currency. What is central bank digital currency? We must have heard from the chairman of RBI, and what this is, we will hear from Chakravarti sir. And this is what RBI proposes to launch in lieu of cryptocurrencies. And this is a completely, totally a new concept in Indian economy, and how it will be operational and other important aspect will be deliberated by CA Arjit Chakravarti. Before I hand over the proceeding or ask respected sir to deliberate, may I have a small introduction of Arjit sir. CA Arjit Chakravarti is FCA MBA Finance and certified internal.
Mahendra, Mahendra. Huh? Mahendra, Mahendra.
Sorry. C. Arjit Chakravarti is FCA MBA Finance Certified Internal Auditor from USA and Information System Auditor, Certified Concurrent Auditor of Banks, and undertook ISO Lead Audit and Aviation Operational Safety Audit Training. Completed Advanced Management Program from Harvard in a career of 23 years. Sorry. Served at management and leadership roles with big five firms on projects in India, US, Canada, Bangladesh, Europe, Africa, involving internal and statutory audit, LR, due diligence, risk management, forensic diagnostic reviews, process control, IT risk assessment, and capacity building. As a practicing CA, he has handled assignments in forensic audit, contract compliance review, special audit, cyber forensic project, research, IFRS, INDEAS, capacity building, etc. in diverse industry verticals. Friends, he has been consultant for projects of the World Bank, ADB in India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Africa, Afghanistan, and other countries. Mr. Arijit is associated as resource person in post-qualification courses including IS audit, forensic audit, business valuation, India's concurrent audit of banks, etc. Served as special invitee resource person with ASB, AASB, IASB, DAAB, FRRB, PRB, GPFGA, and other boards committees of ICI. He has earlier been on the board of governors of IIA India Kolkata chapter. And the most important and unusual, uncommon part of introduction, which I am going to read, is he is author of the publication Risk Management in Civil Aviation, flying the Airbus A320. Yes. So he is a pilot also. In addition with CA, he is pilot also. Guide to Impairment of Assets AS28, Risk-Based Audit and Internal Audit, and Guide to Business Valuation. He has spoken to ARC, NIRC, SIRC, and more than 500 CP programs in regional and other conferences in last 18 years he has taken. So welcome, sir. With this, your small introduction, we ACAE and on behalf of ACAE, I Hariram Agrawal, Chairman of Banking and Finance Committee, welcome you at this our platform and request you to please deliberate on the topic, sir. Welcome, sir.
Very good evening, sir. I thank Ye Hariram Agarwal, sir, for inviting me. He is the chairman of the Banking and Finance Committee of ACA. I also thank C. Anup Sanghai for inviting me. This is a very important topic, and this theme of this 2-day special, conclave, that is next gen banking. Yes, as Hariram sir was saying, and my previous speaker also underlined upon the changing environment and dynamics in the banking sector. Yes, this is the need of the hour, and I thank ACA for organizing this program. And we will go into the presentation. I have around half an hour, and we will be focusing on the emerging changes in the virtual currency sector and the introduction of the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, which has been pronounced and is going to be launched in a phased manner by the Reserve Bank of India. I will also try to highlight some of the professional opportunities which can emanate from this major change which India is thinking of. So I'm just sharing the presentation. Hariram sir, can you please enable the presentation? So can you make me the host for the time being so that I can do the screen sharing?
Just a minute. Just a
Yes,
minute. I'm asking the host to make you.
Also, welcome. Good evening to all our esteemed members and participants and delegates in this program. You must have seen that there's a major change going in the information technology scenario with a lot of flux taking place in cryptocurrency exchanges, and perhaps many are of the feeling that the RBI is possibly trying to, they are possibly trying to make sure that this will come as the CBDC is going to come as a possible replacement or a substitute of
Yes, sir.
the
Now you have been
cryptocurrency.
made co-host,
Okay.
sir. Now you
Sir,
can share your screen.
Yeah, sir, can you kindly confirm if the screen is visible, sir?
No, not so far, sir.
Okay, it will take some time, I think. Yes. Yeah, is it coming?
No, still the screen is not visible, sir.
Okay, I'll just try once again. Just try once again and check. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, fine. So, yeah, the appropriate theme of these 2 days special conclave is transforming India next gen banking, and we'll be discussing on the central bank digital currency. Now, first and foremost, of course, this is at a very nascent stage, and the Deputy Governor of RBI, Shri T. Ravishankar, has just spoken about the intention of RBI to move ahead in the introduction of virtual currency, of course, digital currency. So we shall review about the introduction to CBDC, what it actually is supposed to be, the operation of CBDC, and also the proposed roadmap for the launch of CBDC, the central bank digital currency. Recently, you are all aware that the currency bill 2021 was supposed to be put up in the monsoon session of the parliament, but for certain reasons it has not been. And we will examine the background of the cryptocurrency bill, the benefits of CBDC, and when it comes to benefits, we shall be looking at the risks as well. So to do a complete SWOT analysis of the central bank digital currency. Also, friends, when it comes to cryptocurrency, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has introduced a notification on 24th of March. Of course, inter alia, a lot of changes have been made in Schedule 3, but one of the clause states that going forward from this financial year, every company which is dealing in cryptocurrency will have to make certain clear disclosures. So we will look at that as well. And of course, the move taken by RBI is not an isolated move. It is not a one-off action. It is a part of a coordinated move, because we will also examine the development in the CBDC roadmap in the other countries. And all of you are aware that internationally, the RBI is a member of BIS. BIS is the Bank for International Settlements, and BIS has already proposed a roadmap for CBDC to be introduced in several countries, and a wide majority of these countries have already embarked on introducing CBDC as on a pilot basis, of course. And we can all understand, big question comes whether CBDC, what will be the mode of operation, who will be the issuer, will it be through a retail mode, whether the banks, how much of empowerment will be given to the banks. And of course, when we talk about a new digital currency, the question comes, what will be the changes which are required in law, legislations? And of course, we will conclude with a way forward. So the first is, if you look at the changing times, friends, of course, the last few years, 1.5 years has been challenging, but then with every challenge, certain opportunities have come. And in these 1.5 years, a lot of focus has come on the technology sector. And when we talk of CBDC, it is going to be a digital currency. So it will move in the digital platform, which means that from the information system security angle, there will be certain security risk and cyber risk. But on the positive side, yes, a series of IPOs are coming in the technology sector. All of us have seen the IPOs getting oversubscribed. In the recent past, in the last few months, the information technology rules 2021, the intermediary rules have been pronounced by the government, and the government has taken a tough stand so far as compliance of the rules are concerned. The third is, of course, when it comes to certain players in the OTT platform, e-commerce platform, rules are coming. Also, for the last few weeks, we have seen the tremendous impact of Pegasus, which has been created in the business sector, and even board of directors, audit committee chairman, even they are worried, and they're worried about the sanctity and the security of the data. Just as if CBDC comes and becomes a reality, we all will be worried with the IT security and with the interoperability of CBDC with the existing fiat currencies which we have. Now, in the last few months, many of us who have been tracking this change and move towards cryptocurrency. Now, if you look at the recent trend in cryptocurrency over the last few years, there's a huge upswing in cryptocurrency trading all over the world. And in India, of course, way back in 2018, the central bank, the regulator of the banking sector, the RBI, had stated that told banks that do not enter into any type of dealing with cryptocurrency exchanges. However, in 2019, the Honorable Supreme Court set aside that diktat, and then, of course, recently, in the last 1 year, there has been international crackdown on cryptocurrencies, starting with China, for example, US, which is having a very, a very closely monitored, regulated economy. And there has been widespread concerns about the safety of investors' money. How safe is cryptocurrency? Because ultimately, cryptocurrency, the basic platform, the technology platform is the blockchain. Now, even though in a blockchain, we think of blocks which are connected, which are nothing but data, storage of data, and they are connected with each other through a cryptographic hash. And we also have something called consensus algorithm, through which the blocks are sealed through a process like very similar to a digital signature. But then the entire cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, for example, Ethereum or Dogecoin, they are all using this particular platform blockchain. But the question still arises on whether there is viability in the cryptocurrency. Most importantly, there are no regulations of cryptocurrencies. And most importantly, one point is that there's no bank who is issuing cryptocurrency. So there are a lot of risks on cryptocurrency. At the same time, the public throughout India as well as in other countries have shown a marked preference for cryptocurrencies, and number of crypto exchanges have come up in the last 1.5 years. But then looking in the last few months, what has happened? A lot of adverse actions have been taken by the regulators in India. For example, recently, the Income Tax Department sent notices to a couple of top crypto exchanges in the country, asking for details of their transactions, their ledgers, and therefore the taxation on cryptocurrency could be a major area of debate, deliberation in the coming years. Also, the Enforcement Directorate, you have all seen that they have sent show cause notices to WazirX, which is one of the largest crypto exchanges in the country. And there has been possible violation of the Foreign Exchange Management Act to the tune of almost 2,800 CR, if I remember correctly. So these are substantial amounts. Also, recently, the Advertisement Council, Standards Council of India, now they have started, of course, they've come out with a very important pronouncement saying that the crypto exchanges which are operating now, when they are going for advertisement and promotion, they need to come out with certain disclaimer clauses and certain documentation. For example, when we look at a mutual fund, commercial, there's a standard clause which says that mutual funds are subject to market risks. Please read the offer document before investing. Similarly, for all these online games, definitely there's a huge publicity going on and a huge, craze for the games. Some of the biggest business tycoons in India are investing substantial amount in the gaming sector, entertainment sector. But there also you need a clause, you need a disclaimer. Now, the Advertisement Standards Council of India has hauled up number of crypto exchanges in the last few months, especially for violating certain code of conduct. So these are what is going on. At the same time, yes, number of spurts in cyber crimes and data breaches have taken place. And overall focus of the regulator, including the RBI, now comes on DQI, which is nothing but data quality and integrity. And the focus is on CIA, that is the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the data. So if everything is digital, now are we ready to handle such a huge amount of digital infrastructure and architecture? Will there be any goof ups in the entire process? What will be the application controls? What will be the software related controls? Who will be the custodian? So these questions are coming up. Now, it is true, if you see this slide, that digital payments, CBDCs, so it's a digital currency, digital payments have increased, and all of us, we can be a witness to the fact that in the last 1.5 years, cash payments and settlements have fallen significantly. And right from 2009 till 2019, if we see, cash transactions have declined significantly, whereas payment through cards and digital payments have increased. Now, this is definitely one of the driver for introduction of the CBDC by the RBI. So declining use of physical cash, let us see the background, why CBDC is possibly going to come, and paper currency. The second is the COVID pandemic has further, I will say, accentuated and enhanced the opportunity for digital currency. And we can see even when you're ordering, some items from e-commerce websites, there also cash on delivery is something which is discouraged nowadays. So everything is becoming digital. So the central banks, not just the Indian central bank, but central banks in England, for example, in the European Union, also in US, even in Singapore. So they have been thinking, why not explore this digital movement and create a digital version of a currency? For example, Sweden has already in the pilot stage to implement such a type of digital currency. Now, sitting at this point in time, it is very difficult to say how things will shape up in the near future, how far the digital currency will be working, what will be the reaction and the repercussion from the crypto exchanges. But then, as on date, looking at the trend which is there in the international domain, certain important economies of the world like Germany, Japan, US, Denmark, they have been focusing on making digital currency a reality, and therefore the central banks of different countries have converged under the leadership of the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, so that there can be a unified, collaborated move towards digital currencies. One of the fear which has perhaps driven this change is the fact that there has been rampant number of private virtual currencies like bitcoins and other currencies. Yes, it has to a certain extent, it has definitely fueled speculation, and therefore it could, as per the Reserve Bank and as per the central bank of several countries, it could have an indirect impact, an adverse impact on market integrity, and therefore to a certain extent to arrest the damages which the private virtual currency can bring about. The central banks have thought about an alternative, and that is to bring in place a digital currency. And according to the Apex Bank in India, the central bank, CBDC will be more real time and cost effective so far as payment systems are concerned. Also, one important driver, or I can say a lever for introduction of CBDC, is the fact that India has a high currency to GDP ratio. So if you are able to replace part of the cash usage with CBDC, definitely the RBI is of the feeling that the entire overheads for printing, transportation, storing and distribution of cash can be reduced. So this could be one of the key drivers which is behind the introduction of CBDC. Now, the GOI, of course, the government of India has made a very significant intent. The intention seems to be quite clear. However, a clear-cut written agenda is yet to come. But then the government has active plans of harnessing the power of blockchain. And the government has already started using blockchain, which is the guiding technology for crypto exchanges. Blockchain technology is now used for say, for example, for smoothing out land records and registration systems, for verifying the vaccination programs, for monitoring the vaccination programs, also for verification of certificates, university certificates and examination certificates. But when it comes to cryptocurrency, or when it comes to the CC cryptocurrency, as on date, there's absolutely no clear stance from the government. But when it comes to the blockchain, yes, our former finance minister had indicated that yes, India possibly will be harnessing the power of blockchain. Now, the RBI CBDC. Now, RBI has recently defined CBDC, and if we see, definitely first we have a quick review of what is a currency, and then we will see how far CBDC can be termed as a type of currency. Now, currency, of course, is a form of money which is used by the sovereign. The central bank is the representative. It is definitely a liability for the issuing central bank, and for the holding public, it is an asset. So it is a legal tender. There is, for example, it is a fiat currency. There is a regulation for that, and the central bank is born, has been created out of the RBI Act of 1934. So currency is usually in paper form, but the RBI and the other central banks definitely hold the view that the form of the currency cannot determine its actual characteristic. That means it could be in physical form, it could be in a digital form as well. Now, when it comes to CBDC, yes, as per the RBI, in line with the other countries of the world, some of them are emerging economies, some of them are advanced economies. Now, CBDC will be seen as a legal tender. It will be issued by the RBI in a digital form, number one. It will have the same, almost the same significance as that of fiat currency, and it is exchangeable with the fiat currency. These are, as on date, the available information or the indications from RBI regarding the possible form of the CBDC. Of course, it's the only difference that is that it will be in the form is different. It is digital. Now, like for example, when we think of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Of course, we use the term coin, but then Bitcoin does not have any physical existence. It will be there in the digital wallet, which will be actually housed in the blockchain network. So a blockchain is composed of nodes, and virtually the nodes are basically the players in the blockchain network. They will authorize and approve every transaction, and then a block is mined, a new block is created. So in that block, if there's a digital wallet, it will store the crypto asset or the cryptocurrency. But here, the RBI is not at all, at least has not yet hinted on the use of blockchain network so far as CBDC is concerned. Now, the approach as per what the RBI has come out with first is that several countries in the world are in the process of thinking of introducing CBDC. Some of the countries have already gone for a POC, which is a proof of concept and a pilot project on CBDC. Now, this is not something new because way back in 2017, there was a high-level interministerial committee which was constituted by the Ministry of Finance to examine what can be the policy and the legal framework, especially for regulating the virtual currency and the cryptocurrency. Many of you are aware that Bitcoin and blockchain have been used quite interchangeably, and it was actually the movement started way back in 2008 by a group of people who called themselves Satoshi Nakamoto, and they started with this Bitcoin and this blockchain. But then initially the government in 2017 decided that yes, can we have a sort of a regulation, or can we have a recommendation so far as the regulation and control over the virtual currency and the exchanges can be carried out, and whether we can introduce CBDC as a digital form of fiat money. So several countries in the world under BIS were actually toying out with this idea of whether we can have a CBDC. And currently the RBI, as informed, as communicated by the Deputy Governor of RBI, is that the current status is that the RBI is exploring the pros and cons of introducing the CBDC. And most of the central banks till now have the opinion that CBDC will enhance all cross-border payments, and it is going to be regulated. There will be a regulation. There will be an issuer, and the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements. See, this cannot be an isolated move by India or by any developed country for that matter. It has to be part of an international move, and the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, they are seen as the important stakeholders for consultation. And the BIS has already formed a consultative group where there are representatives of different central banks, the IMF, the World Bank, and of course, experts in the field. And they're trying to work out on what will be the pros and cons and SOP for CBDC. Now, the purpose, very recently, I was mentioning about the cryptocurrency bill 2021 and the fact that recently the government was supposed to bring it in this current session of the parliament. Now, the crypto bill, as it is called in short, Cryptocurrency and Regulation of Official Digital Currency Bill 2021, has been prepared. Currently, the Ministry of Finance, the central bank, all the banks as well, and the stakeholders are basically in a mood of discussion, deliberation before they roll out the bill and place it in the parliament. Now, there will be a lot of consensus which is required, starting out with a digital currency or a digital, that way, a digital, a sort of a virtual currency is not an easy task. And there are already a number of crypto exchanges in the country. There's a sizable investment in cryptocurrencies already. And whether the biggest question is whether CBDC will have a parallel existence with the cryptocurrency. That's a big question. And the stance from the government is yet to come. Now, the key purposes why this cryptocurrency bill has come. First of all, to curb or to control the crypto exchanges, that is the private virtual currencies or the PVC. The second is to roll out at least a roadmap, if not the complete set of guidelines, at least a roadmap regarding the form, objective of the digital currency. So to create, you can see the main purpose is to create a facilitative framework so that there can be a place for an official digital currency, which is going to be definitely issued by the RBI. Now, here we all know that the cryptocurrencies do not have any, it's privately issued. There's no public issuer. Also, the value of cryptocurrency moves up and down due to a number of factors. Of course, that is beyond the scope of this today's discussion. But then we have to keep in mind the volatility of cryptocurrency. And you must have seen that just a comment, if I may take the name of Mr. Elon Musk, just a comment from Mr. Elon Musk, head of Tesla, creates a huge upswing or a downswing in the value of cryptocurrency. So this volatility could be one of the reasons why the central banks are worried. And volatility means speculation, and there could be deep adverse impact on the market integrity. So this could be one of the reasons. Second is to prohibit all private cryptocurrencies. Now, I really don't know whether the government will be in a position to prohibit all private cryptocurrencies, even though, officially speaking, this was one of the major objectives of introducing the crypto bill. Now, here the Honorable Supreme Court had set aside the initial diktat from the RBI, and even the Finance Ministry, the Honorable Finance Minister, hinted that cryptocurrency altogether cannot be banned or will not be banned, but will be regulated. And the blockchain technology, which is the underlying platform for cryptocurrency, will be harnessed. The power of blockchain will be harnessed. Now, here, one important factor which we need to consider is blockchain mining requires a huge amount of computing power, which means it could also harm the environment. I'll share with you some of the estimates of how much computing power requires to run blockchain networks. So this could be one of the reasons. And certain exceptions will be there, as I just said, that certain exceptions to promote cryptocurrency technology will be there. In other words, the government clearly stated the intention that blockchain will be used. Cryptocurrency may not be as such, promoted, but at the same time, cryptocurrency will not be banned as well. So it seems to be, at least on a personal note, it seems to be there's a possibly a dearth of a clear-cut action or a clear-cut, frame of or an action point from the government. What will be the agenda? What will be the guidelines? We are yet to see. But then the RBI on 31st of May this year announced that the banks can allow cryptocurrency trading with routine due diligence, KYC, and making sure that cryptocurrency exchanges is not going to be used for two purposes: for money laundering, tax evasion, or for the purpose of terrorist financing. Now, these are, of course, serious issues for any economy, including our country. And we have seen, of course, humongous examples of money laundering taking place, and, of course, a number of cases on tax evasion. So this definitely has been the diktat from the RBI. And the RBI, with this new diktat on 31st of May, the RBI has also done away with the earlier circular which it had issued, instructing the banks not to facilitate in cryptocurrency exchanges. So this is where we stand. Now, coming to CBDC, it will be a legal tender, clearly as brought out by the Deputy Governor. Second is, it will have the same functional capability as a fiat currency. It will be exchangeable in the nature as like we have a fiat currency INR, which is exchangeable on a one-to-one form. The only difference is it will be in a digital form. And of course, the basic difference, if we try to analyze as per the data and as per the the guidelines which are available till date from the Apex Bank in India, that yes, it will have a lot of difference with the private digital currencies or the private virtual currencies like Ether and Bitcoin. First of all, private crypto have no legal issuer, number one, that is definitely there. Second is the market is very volatile, and it can go up and down due to number of issues which sometimes go beyond financial and economic reasons. And from the RBI perspective, and also not just the RBI, even the US Federal Reserve, they are of the view that private crypto cannot be considered as money or in the form of currency, strictly as per the definition of currency which RBI follows and the central banks follow. Well, the crypto assets cannot be thought of as a currency, but yes, CBDC will be legal tender, and therefore it can be considered as almost the same as that of the INR, and therefore it will be seen at par with currency. Now, will there be a countdown to CBDC? Well, as of now, yes and no. First is it is in pilot phase. The deputy governor has stated that the deployment will be in a phase-wise manner down the line. No dates or deadlines have yet been announced, and definitely the deputy governor has aired his concerns on the cryptocurrency and stated that the CBDC will be issued in lieu of private digital assets, which is cryptocurrency. Now, also on the part of CBDC, it will end up in the balance sheet of RBI as a currency which is in circulation. Now, it will be definitely for the mass, for the entire population, and the proposed changes, of course, when we have to introduce such a large scale digital currency, which is number one, legal tender, number two is issued by the RBI, third is exchangeable, fourth is it is going to have a mass, it will be used by the masses. So it will be an instrument which will be used by the common man. Therefore, certain changes in the regulations have been proposed. First is certain sections of the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 regarding the powers of printing currency and so on, enabling powers so far as CBDC will have to be implemented. The Coinage Act of 2011 will have to be amended suitably. Also, Foreign Exchange Management Act. And since the digital currency will ultimately move in a digital platform, there will be certain changes required in the Information Technology Act of 2000 and amended further in 2008. So this is what the CBDC stance of the RBI is all about. Now, first of all, RBI is now thinking about certain next steps. First is, okay, the form seems to be a little clear. It will be a legal tender. It will be exchangeable, and it can be used for settling debts and obligations, and it will be only in the virtual platform, and it is a legal tender. Fine. Now, the technology part, whether it will be through a DLT, which is a distributed ledger technology, very similar to a blockchain, or will it be through a centralized ledger technology, CLT? That is yet to be, decided. The third is the validation base, whether it will be an account-based system or a token-based system. Whether it will be distributed by the RBI or by the banks, this is also under review. And the enabling framework, we have to make sure that the legal and the regulatory framework has also been fine-tuned and amended so that we are able to usher in this new form of digital currency. Now, some of the benefits which several central banks have pointed out, and definitely a substantial part of it seems to make sense. First is there will be reduced dependence on cash currency. Second is cost of printing of currency, especially in a country like India, definitely it can be saved. The third is more robust settlement mechanism on a more real-time basis, and time zone in foreign exchange transactions to a large extent can be eliminated. So these are the benefits of the CBDC as per what the central banks are of the view, and definitely even as a professional, we can definitely identify certain positive aspects of CBDC. Now, the views of RBI with regard to crypto, why is it that they have stated that the CBDC will be launched in lieu of crypto? Now, RBI has taken, of course, quite a tough stance, a hard posture, I will say, so far as the crypto exchange and cryptocurrency is concerned. Specifically, they have taken the name of Bitcoin and Ether and other such crypto exchange, cryptocurrencies. And according to the RBI, definitely doesn't fit with the definition of currency. Now, there are volatility issues. And as I said, that the RBI is of the view, looking at the concerns of the central banks, that CBDC will be an alternative Why? Because the crypto asset has given rise to a lot of volatility in the market. And even from 2017 till date, if we see, there has been huge rise. Sometimes Bitcoin traded at $40,000, $50,000, then immediately it bounced down and slumped down to something like $25,000. So even sometimes just a comment coming from a particular business house who are promoters of bitcoins and promoters of cryptocurrency had made a lot of difference. Plus lack of regulations, lack of legislations, and who is the issuer? Well, it's all privately issued. Plus the way in which blockchains function, to be very honest, is still not known. I will also share with you our institute has already brought out certain guidance on how to do audit of blockchain. Now, I'll also share a few points. Now, if as an we are all auditors now, if we have to think of how to carry out audit of Bitcoin or a crypto exchange, and also eventually if CBDC comes, how to carry out the audit of CBDC in a virtual mode, definitely guidelines. I will also say that certain auditing standards and even the SOP for doing audit in a totally virtual environment will have to be relooked. But then CBDC minimizes risk because to a large extent, it is definitely not going to be so volatile as that of private cryptocurrencies. And the central banks have clearly indicated that cryptocurrencies, private cryptocurrencies are absolutely not to be thought of as commodities. They don't have intrinsic value, and it cannot be compared with gold, for example, and therefore it cannot represent a person's debt or liabilities. And there is a global concern, not just in India, but also in US, in Japan, for example, even though Japan has taken somewhat accommodative stance, I will say, so far as cryptocurrencies are concerned and so far as even the CBDC is concerned. But then there is a fear that crypto exchanges could be used as a route for terror financing and money laundering. But then whether these are going to be assets, whether cryptocurrency is an asset or currency or a payment system, well, a clear-cut answer, a converged thought process is yet to come. And also, can cryptocurrency promote transparent operation and create a strong, robust regulatory framework? Well, to a large extent, central banks are of the feeling that no, and there will be rise of speculation and volatility. Now, some of the risks, cryptocurrency risks, which RBI has pointed out, because as I was saying that RBI clearly stated that the CBDC would be coming in lieu of cryptocurrencies. Now, consumer interest definitely can get hampered. Market integrity and the equilibrium in the market, yes. And wide-scale speculation, we have seen such type of frenzy and craze even in the capital markets, and it has possibly not done good for the entire, the entire stakeholders. Third is credit system. Yes, there might be adverse impact on the credit system, and therefore the government of India is yet to clarify its exact stance on the cryptocurrency and whether it will be a credible asset class. So, but then CBDC, of course, has to a large extent, we can at least we can envisage the format and the operation of the exchange of the CBDC. Now, the RBI is also worried about the volume of crypto which is currently moving in the country. Now, India has witnessed a whopping 600% jump, if you see, in the crypto investments, and this has gone to a whopping 6.6 billion USD in May 2021, according to Chainalysis, the data which has been furnished by Chainalysis. And as on last month, India was ranking 18th in the world with a huge Bitcoin investment gains of almost $241 million. Now, therefore, the current status, if we look at CBDC on one hand, we also, as I come to the last part of my discussion, we also need to have a quick glance at what is happening on the cryptocurrency status, not just in India, but abroad. Well, Japan has taken quite an open status, accommodative status. US has been pushing hard and regulating the cryptocurrencies. China has gone for a ban. India, yes, no specific regulation. And well, another question will be coming in due course is the tax impact on the cryptocurrency transactions. And we have already seen that the income tax department has sent notices to some of them. Well, will it be brought under GST? Will there be an equalization levy? These are, as of now, not yet decided by the Apex Bank or by the Ministry of Finance. But the concern, as I said, when it comes to power consumption, yes, is that the cryptocurrency is based on blockchain transaction. And for blockchain mining to take place, creating new blocks to take place, especially for BTC, that is Bitcoin, it is estimated that it's Bitcoin mining throughout the world takes up almost 110 terawatt hours, which is equivalent to the power drawing of Malaysia or even of Sweden. So that's a humongous impact on the environment. So blockchain also has a carbon footprint on the environment. Now, lastly, of course, MCA has, this is also very surprising, because on the one hand, the RBI and the government has not focused or not promoted crypto exchanges, but then yes, when it comes to cryptocurrency transaction, yes, a company might have a substantial amount of cryptocurrency transactions. Of course, CBDC is yet to come, but so far as the private virtual currency transactions are concerned, there may be certain transactions. And if you look at the notification dated 24th of March, the MCA clearly has stated that with effect from 1st of April 2021, from this financial year, for every company, any company which is dealing in cryptocurrency, either on its own or through a cryptocurrency exchange, will have to disclose, number one, the profit or loss which you are incurring in a financial year. Second is the amount of closing balance. So the amount of virtual currency which they are holding on a reporting date, and if the company has received any advance or deposits from any other party, from any person, for the purpose of trading in the crypto exchange, cryptocurrencies or virtual currency, this has to be disclosed. Now, just to conclude with the last few points, now audit issues definitely will be valuation of cryptocurrency. Similarly, many of us might be working as internal auditor or systems auditor or statutory auditor of these type of companies which are having cryptocurrency transactions, or you might be appointed as the auditor for a cryptocurrency exchange. So their valuation of cryptocurrency will be a major issue, Indian Accounting Standard 113. Plus, even in case of a CBDC environment, the information technology general controls and the blockchain network controls will have to be checked if the government decides to route the CBDC through a digital ledger, DLT, distributed ledger technology. And also the question is, CBDC, or even for that matter, the virtual currency will exist only in a digital wallet. So the auditor has to make sure whether the existence, the currency is actually existing. And if there is a question of valuation, there will be a question also of impairment of cryptocurrency. Now, the last part is the BIS survey. India is not the only country which is spearheading with crypto. So just completing in the next 5 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, sorry. So 86% of the central banks have already looked at CBDC, and the RBI deputy governor has clearly stated that number of banks have gone for pilot testing. Now, out of 50 banks who have reverted back on the survey which was carried out in this March, in the month of March this year, there were 50 banks, 50 countries which responded, and 18 of them belong to the advanced economies, and 32 are from the emerging market. Now, number of central banks are open to allow the tourists and other non-resident to use CBDCs within their own jurisdiction. This is one of the feature, one of the survey results. And the central banks, some of the central banks, especially in the US, they are considering something called MCBDC, multiple CBDC arrangement. 2/3 of the respondents clearly stated that CBDC experimentation is going on a pilot basis, and almost more than 50% stated that CBDC will lead to cross-border payment efficiency and therefore promote market discipline. As on date, only 2 CBDCs have gone live. One is in the Bahamas, Sand Dollar, and the other is Dcash in the Eastern Caribbean. So this is what the BIS survey talks about. And definitely the key issues would be that if you see, will a retail CBDC, the biggest question which the central banks are asking, whether a retail CBDC, will it be open to foreign visitors who are coming to the country? First of all. Second is, will it be allowed to be used outside the jurisdiction's borders? If so, will there be a multilateral agreement with certain countries? And most central banks as on date have not taken up any firm position on that. The Bank of England, for example, they have not taken up any decision as such on Bitcoin, but yes, they have said that digital currency is going to come. and they will not, of course, they will not replace bank notes. The two will carry on a parallel basis. Singapore Central Bank, Central Bank of France, and China. In China, already digital yuan is in circulation, and the US Federal Reserve. Finally, they are also of the view that there might be coexistence of CBDC and the fiat currency. And finally, I think it's only a matter of time, and the RBI will have to come together, the Minister of Finance, all stakeholders have to come together on three aspects. First, of course, is if you see this graph, used by the foreign residents. If you look at the survey, just the last two slides, if you see that the percentage of respondents. Now, some of the countries have stated that yes, we will allow CBDC to be used by foreign residents, but the majority of them are still undecided. When it comes to using CBDC outside the jurisdiction, there also we can see that majority are still undecided. Plus, due to the reeling impact of the COVID and the impending third wave, there could be disruptions, and therefore most of the central banks are approaching or using a wait and watch approach. Finally, undesired volatility can be reduced, but then the question is some of the risks are also there. Just as IMF have said that for currency substitution, CBDC could be both a poison or it can be a medicine. It all depends on the modality in which CBDC is launched. Yes, it's a digital currency. It will be issued by the central bank. It will be freely exchangeable. But then certain questions still remain as to the use of CBDC beyond the jurisdiction and whether incoming foreign nationals will be allowed to use CBDC. Lastly, the CBDC ecosystem, of course, will have a similar risk. Like any other payment system, there will be cyber threats, and especially India and other emerging economies, there might be risks of cyber threat because of poor financial literacy levels. Every day we can see so many cyber frauds taking place, and therefore the first control which banks have to take and the RBI has to spearhead is high standards of cyber security. Of course, we have the PCI DSS, the payment card industry's data security standard. We also have the ISO 27001 on information system security management. RBI has also beefed up the RBS system, risk-based supervision, but more is expected and more has to be carried out. More has to be delivered so that we can welcome CBDC. Also, parallel efforts on financial literacy promotion has to be carried out. So I will complete with the way forward. A specific legislation on CBDC is on the cards, and on cryptocurrency, how far the government is going to allow crypto and whether it will allow a parallel existence of crypto, private crypto, and CBDC. And the second is a specific policy to govern the increasing impact of cryptocurrency industry, not just in India, but also in other countries of the world. So finally, we all want security of the money, we all want market integrity, and therefore we all definitely look forward to further improvement developments which will be coming from the central bank. Today was only a very basic introductory understanding of CBDC, just based on whatever market information has come and whatever the RBI deputy governor has stated, plus the BIS survey which has been carried out, and also by the different countries of the world who are in the advanced stages of pilot projects so far as CBDC is concerned. But finally, cryptocurrency, blockchain, the underlying technology of CBDC, the regulatory framework, and the process of controlling and making sure that incident management will be reported, and assessment of cyber threat, everything has to be inbuilt, and everything has to be dovetailed, and inclusive approach has to be taken. So this is all from my side. I'll sign off, and thanks again to Hariram sir for inviting me, and I hereby complete the presentation, and thanks a lot for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, C. Arijit sir, for your nice deliberation on the central bank digital currency, which we call CBDC, and which will be in replacement of cryptocurrency. Very nicely covered this need aspect, legal aspect, practical and operational aspect of this CBDC. And this is completely a new aspect, and I hope the audience has gained a lot with the deliberation on this new concept. Thank you very much. And at the end of this, on behalf of ACA, I'll be offering a e-memento to your good selves, sir.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure, and thanks once again to ACA for inviting
Yes,
me.
sir.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you
your
for my pleasure, sir.
yes, sir. Yes, this is your e momentum,
Yes.
and
Thank you,
we will.
sir. I heartily, I'm very happy and heartily reciprocate my feelings, and thanks for presenting this memento to me. And
Thank you, sir.
thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for inviting.
Very nice
Thank
for being with us, and we hope in future also you will be made available to us
you. Sure, sir.
for your deliberation and all.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Friends, uh, we welcome CA Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, the third speaker of the day on these 2 days VCM on NextGen Banking Transforming India. This last 2 days we had very nice national level speakers, and today also, and the last leg of our this program is CA Sanjay Agarwal. Friends, CA Sanjay Agarwal will be deliberating on credit rating, and the aspect covered and related there too with the credit rating are need and benefits from credit rating for borrowers. And the more so, he will be putting emphasis how you can plan for better credit ratings, which can ultimately be beneficial for MSME and large borrowers. Friends, before I request CA Sanjay Kumar Agarwal to deliberate on the topic, let me introduce CA Sanjay Kumar Agarwal to all of you. CA Sanjay Kumar Agarwal, born and brought up in Kurseong, Darjeeling, did schooling from the Kurseong and Siliguri, and later he did his CA.
Bye.
Later he did CA from Calcutta, Lodha and Company Articleship, and held All India rank in CA intermediate and final examination. Based on then format of rank order recruitment process, he joined Industrial Finance Corporation of India, which was amongst the three leading long-term funding agencies mandated by Government of India, and was part of the core team which piloted the first IPOs by a government agency. He then joined CARE, CARE, CARE Ratings in the ratings and advisory services, wherein he worked in large and mid-sized Indian corporates and agencies. He also worked in the advisory team of CARE Rating handling assignments related to infrastructure, valuation, pricing, and privatization, working with central government departments, state government, private companies, and public sector undertaking. Now, Sanjay Kumar Agarwal ji has been working with CARE Rating Limited since 2010, heading various functions of corporate ratings, BFSI ratings, SME ratings, business development special projects, and also interim CFO. Before that, he worked in the global corporate credit risk management team of ICICI Bank. Currently, CA Sanjay Kumar Agarwal is a senior director in CARE Ratings and is in charge of the BFSI vertical. Almost all large and medium banks and finance companies are his clients. He is also a member of the senior management group of CARE and heads some of the rating committees. So, with this small brief profile of C. Sanjay Agarwal, I welcome C. Sanjay Agarwal to this August gathering and platform, and request C. Sanjay Kumar Agarwal ji to please deliberate on the topic. C. Sanjay Agarwal, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Hariramji. Means after Arijit's passionate presentation on cryptocurrency, and being the at the later end of the day, I hope I am able to attract your attention enough. Means after a very exciting subject, when you get a slightly lesser exciting subject, it becomes difficult to hold the attention of the members. So, friend, I'm based out of Bombay. I've been in Bombay for last 25, 27 years now. So speaking to a group of corporate advisors of Calcutta is indeed a privilege for me. It's like talking to my alma mater. And I'm very thankful to Hariramji and Anup Sanghai for giving me this opportunity. The way I would like to share this, have these deliberations is in terms of making it more interactive. So while I have the presentation in a particular manner, if you want something, we can skip, and if there are certain questions relating to whatever you think rating agency related issues are there, we can directly go to those questions. So I would like you to point out those questions in case you want to discuss that. Otherwise, I'll certainly go in my own flow, and it probably be quite late in the day by the time you we come to the question that you are seek to answer. So I'm a senior director in CARE. I head BFSI right now. I've already, as Mr. Hariram Agarwal had said, I've already done headed, let's say, the corporate banking and the SME rating space. A brief introduction on CARE. CARE is the second largest rating agency in the country. It's among the largest in the world also, because there are very few countries other than India where you have a very active credit rating industry. We have a very large share in all the top parameters, professionally managed. So we are a domestic company. So we are among the largest domestic rating agencies in the world, actually. And this is a shareholding, so it's very widely held. There's no dominant shareholder. It's all done by professional board and professional management. We have subsidiaries in Nepal and Mauritius, which do the rating for those respective countries and for those regions. We have coverage on all sectors as it is. This is more thanks to the Indian economy than to our own efforts. And we give a lot of consulting advice globally, and we have a tie-up with the credit rating agency of Japan, JCR, which is handled by one of those institutions in Japan. The various types of credit ratings are bank rating facilities. We rate the bank loans, cash credit, overdraft, non-fund based facilities, credit derivatives. You have capital market instruments, bonds, debentures, preference shares. We also have a fixed deposit rating mandated either by RBI or by a general consensus of the client, and a very active practice in securitization, that is selling of assets to a third party trust through which the investor can invest. So we are understanding of what and how of credit rating, learn the components of credit risk assessment, and understand the need and benefits of credit rating. So overview of credit risk assessment. This is our focus, credit risk assessment. Credit risk requires the largest amount of risk-based capital needed under the Basel capital allocation structure. It is what is credit risk? It's the potential that a bank borrower or a counterparty, so it's not just the borrower, a counterparty may fail to meet its obligation in accordance to the terms. So you need a rating not just as a borrower, but also probably as a counterparty normally to a lender or a resource provider. In India, you have various definitions of credit rating, and this is what creates a lot of issues. So as per the RBI and SEBI definition, 1 rupee 1 day of missed payment, either principal or interest, is actually a default unless there are extremely strong technical reasons for that. And technical reasons would not include that your money is lying in some other account which has not come to your account. It has to be money which is lying in your account and the bank has still not made the payment. Whereas in banking, you first have a SMA 0, then 1, then 2 before you become an NPA. And even in NPA, you have classes of substandard asset, doubtful asset, lost assets. And you also have a category of restructured asset which has become very prominent after the COVID. So this is a very difference between the definition of credit rating by a rating agency and by the bank. So we have cases where they say that we have not defaulted to bank. At the most, there was some overdue of 5-10 days, but still you are downgrading the rating or something. So for us, the most important payment is whether perspective is whether the client will have a default of 1 day 1 rupee for either interest or principal. And in terms of working cash credit limit, it is 30 continuous days of overdrawals. I would still like to put emphasis on that this is a very, especially in the SMEs and mid-sized corporate, this is a very large point of disturbance and discrepancy between the rating agency understanding and client understanding or the consultant understanding, that we don't go by the banking formula. So banks are generally okay with a 0 and 1 SMA, rating agencies are not. What is the benefit of a credit analysis? It allows us to gain insight into the entity. We look at the accounting statements, we look at the past, we look at what could be in the future. We try to do a projection. We do the microeconomic analysis of the entity, the macroeconomic analysis of the industry and of the country and the world, etc., etc. it is a science of credit analysis. The credit analysis the science is in digging the facts and presenting them coherently and accurately. So you actually go by the data and then present the data in a very structured manner. But on the other hand, there is also art in terms of understanding what will happen in the subject matter. So you require experience and credit rating. Credit analysis, thankfully, is one profession where you become better as you grow older. So you have the experience and that helps you in it. And the credit analysis will indicate what can be expected and anticipated from a company. There are these 5 C's of credit: the character, the capacity, the capital, the conditions, and the collateral. In rating, generally the collateral generally is ignored. Practically most of the cases is ignored, and conditions also are not fully factored in. So the credit rating depends on largely on the first 3: the character, capacity, and the capital. So why do companies default? Ultimately, what we are looking at the likelihood of default. So I request you to put in one main reason for default in the chat box. I request everyone to put in one main reason in the chat box, so in terms of why the company would default. Yeah, so there is a reason of check dishonor. Check dishonor is an event of default, but it's not a reason why a company would default. Probably they don't have the money or something. So marketing competition is one. Embezzlement of funds. Okay. Okay. Economies of scale. So probably the participant is saying that your borrower does not have economies of scale. That is how I would believe it to be. Anybody else? Due to bad ratio. I don't know what bad ratio means. Short-term fund for long-term funding. So there is a mismatch in funding. You require funding for a long term, but you don't get it, or you think it's cheaper to go for short-term. So you take a short-term fund. Wrong asset allocation means you purchase an asset and it's not a correct asset, so you don't make money out of it. Diversion of fund is something very common. Probably it's reduced in the past few years, but before that it was very common. And it was very difficult to find that out. Business failure, current ratio, debt equity ratio. Yeah, the current ratio and debt equity ratio, these are 2 assessment parameters.
Sir, may I say something?
Yeah.
Sanjay sir, wrong assets allocation means what is the kind of debtors allocation, stock allocation I should have, and if I allocate my assets more to stock, I keep more inventory. So that is why I intend to say wrong assets allocation.
Okay. So you over invest or under invest in any particular asset?
Yeah, particular asset. So my too much of money is blocked into the stock or in the inventory or on the debtors. So therefore I'll be incurring leverage cost on those particular current assets. So therefore I'll be losing in long run.
Correct. Very good. Very good. Regular overdraws in the bank account. Yeah, that is actually one of the wrong prediction of demand. Okay. Yeah, so we are going pretty close to that. So we have internal factors, as Mr. Anup Sanghai was saying: funds blocked in inventory and debtors, delay in commissioning of project, diversion of funds, lower than expected returns from debt-funded capex, dependency on fund infusion or sale of non-core asset which could not materialize, debt repayment not aligned to cash flows. So this fifth point is something we'll discuss slightly more. I think from a chartered accountant perspective, when you're looking at chartered accountant as being auditors or accountants, one large reason when I look at what has happened in the last 4 years, and in last 4 years, neither rating agencies nor bankers nor consultants have given a very standing example of the quality of credit assessment. We have gone largely wrong in very significant manner. So I see one of the main reasons is that the ability to the inability to recognize the diminution in value of assets. So like say many of the construction companies had built roads and the roads did not have the funding to take care of the completion, or the returns on the road was lower than what the debt was, then it essentially meant that the asset's value had diminished. And if you take a cash flow basis as per the C Institute formula or the guidelines in terms of recognizing impairment of assets, if you taken a cash flow approach with a very honest bias, you probably would have written down a large part of the assets where the net worth probably would have been entirely or substantially been written off, and then it would be very open to the lender to make them understand that the value of the debt is significantly high compared to the economic value of the assets. And even in when we say the funds blocked in inventory and debtors, most of the cases, the reason is that the value of the debtors or inventory is lower than the economic value of the debtors and inventory is lower than what is recognized in the book. So otherwise, we generally would not have the inventory blocked or debtors blocked. So if I have too much of inventory, I can go to the market and sell it at the rate I have in the balance sheet, unless I can sell them. So this is one aspect I would request all of you to dwell upon and understand that while it may look like an accounting issue, it's more of a financial issue. The external reasons are poor recovery of receivables. So while you gave the money, but then suddenly you realize that person is not giving it back to you, or you gave the goods or services and you're not getting it back. It happens with so many chartered accountants that they give the service of auditing or syndication or consulting, and the client does not pay that. So it's a case of poor recovery of receivables. You have scarcity of quality inputs, scarcity of manpower, government policy suddenly changes. So we had the huge amount of thermal plants which are based on coal allocation done in a very structured manner. And suddenly the court came with a decision that we have to reverse all the coal allocation. So all the plants were then stranded, and you had huge write-off in thermal power plants. And thermal power plants incidentally are very capital intensive. So you had a huge NPA thing in the banking sector. Then industry scenario changes, that the economic growth was probably lower than what it should have been, and suddenly there was an oversupply of the goods, or suddenly you have imports coming in from China, and then your goods become unviable, or the sort of growth that you are looking at or demand you are looking at has not come in. Anything could happen. So, or a competing product has, like currently thermal power plants are again under distress because you now have solar or renewable projects, solar or wind projects which are much cheaper. So your cost of production, because you necessarily need coal to do the production, so you have a minimum cost of production, whereas a renewable plant does not have. So these are very scenario. You could have many other scenarios, reasons for that. But I think the largest, when we look back in our own assessment, what are the largest reasons for defaulting? So the largest reasons for defaulting is there is some debt financing required, either additional financing or the total financing, and the promoter or the company has gone ahead with this business, either putting up a new project or taking up expanding sales, etc., where the financing is not tied up. And even if it's tied up, the lender does not release because either documentation is not complete or the lender inherently is not comfortable but has just given the limits. So this is these three reasons are the largest reasons for defaults. So the financing is not arranged, or there is a refinancing, like somebody had said that you use short-term fund for long when a long-term fund is required, and then when you have to refinance, or when you did the original financing at that point of time, you thought that you'll be able to get say 100 rupee in year 4, but actual income was 75. So balance you'll have to refinance, and that is. And third is the equity fund, because this gives the comfort of to the lenders by a support to the to absorb the stress if there are any, and these funds will then take care of the will take part in the super profits or additional profits which come in. But this stress absorber is required, and many times the funds are not arranged, either because it's not tied up, or where it's tied up the person does not release the funds, or we plan to go for IPO or something and the markets don't support. So these are the three most important reasons. So this is very simple. What is credit? What is the risk assessment? Credit risk assessment is undertaken to evaluate the various risk factors which can lead to variability of the envisage cash flow available for debt servicing. I mean, that is the simple assessment of credit risk. So what is a credit rating? It's essentially an unbiased, independent, objective opinion on the relative ability and willingness of the issuer to repay, and it follows the PD approach. So ideally, the higher the rating, lower should be the PD, lower the rating, higher should be the PD. So many times what happens is when the industry scenario turns negative, there is some rating action taken by the rating agency. And then the company or the company official or the consultant then claim that nothing has changed for the company except that the industry has become slightly weaker and the rating has been downgraded, there is no risk of default or something. Actually, the risk of default has increased, probably slightly marginally. It's not become from 2 to 100, but it probably has become 2.5 or 3. So then there would be a rating action out there. So either the outlook gets changed or the rating gets changed, because on a relative basis, the risk of default has increased. So the ability and the willingness of the issuer has reduced. That is it. So that is why rating actions keep taking place, despite the company or the consultant thinking that while the company has done well, the overall economy environment has been slightly weaker and hence they are not responsible for that. Or that they are not at the teetering position of default. When you say a triple B plus or triple B minus or a minus, none of those indicate that you are going to default in the next 1 year. It indicates that compared to say a double B or single B, your default probability is much lower, but compared to a higher rating category, your default probability is slightly higher. This is a write-up on credit rating, so we can read that. Anybody has any questions or something? Is there any real life example you would like to discuss? Otherwise, I can keep going on and you may or may not get an answer.
I have one question, sir.
Yeah, your good name, please.
Yeah, Ratan Bankar.
हाँ बोलिए पंकज।
मेरा कहने का मतलब है कि सर क्रेडिट रेटिंग तो टोटल डिपेंड करता है आपके स्कोर के ऊपर, एज पर माय नॉलेज।
ठीक है
सर, ड्यूरिंग दिस पैंडेमिक any relaxations given by the credit rating companies to the borrowers?
So if you see the nature of credit rating agencies, they are neither part of the government nor are they part of the lender community. Okay, they are just information service providers. But so they give. Hello.
To disturb you, sir, but this credit rating company is appointed by the I think so the bank.
No, they are not appointed by banks. So credit rating agencies are given a license by SEBI and then by RBI, and that is how you can put up a credit rating in India. And the work of the credit rating agency to give a relative assessment of what is the probability of default. अगर कोविड हो गया आपकी particular sub industry में या industry या company में there are issues which are slightly higher than what it was earlier, then the credit rating agency is bound to make a change in the rating to indicate the appropriate level of riskiness compared to the earlier position. Now the thing is, because suppose you are at a triple B level and then the rating has been downgraded to triple B minus, then it is the function of the banking industry or the government of India or somebody to give you relief. A credit rating agency, if they start giving relief, then it would be a total misconstruction of their core agenda or their core mandate. Their mandate is not to take emotional issues at account or market development issues into account. Their core function is to give the information as is, where is basis.
Thank you, sir.
So we have seen in the recent years, last 1.5 years, government has come out with a fantastic scheme on emergency credit line to support MSMEs. Similarly, for larger companies, they had come out with the partial credit guarantee and with TLTRO, etc. So various parts of the market they have addressed through various means. So that is the function of the market at the most probably of RBI, but beyond that, the credit rating agency is not the agency which will do that.
One question is more there. Sir, if the after the credit rating company is given the rating to the company and the company become default and insolvent, in the case of what is the role of the credit rating company?
No, so are you asking what is the responsibility or liability on the credit rating agency?
Yeah.
Okay, so credit rating agency is as I said earlier, these are appointed, these are given licenses by SEBI and RBI, etc. Okay, so they are very laid down processes and the guidelines both from SEBI, RBI, and certain times other regulators. Now it is a matter of let's say the inspection, judgment, interrogation, whatever you call it, of the license provider, that is SEBI and RBI, to understand what was the issue. So obviously when you are doing an opinion, there is a possibility that will go wrong in an opinion. Number one. Number two, if you have given a rating even at AAA, it does not mean there will never be a default, or at BBB it will never, does not mean there will never be a default. What it says is, in AAA, say out of 200 cases, one case may go into default. In BBB, out of 200 cases, probably 12-15 cases will go into default. Correct. So probably what could happen is that one case which goes into default may be having a higher debt size than the other cases. But having said that, the AAA ratings have gone into default is a function of the probability itself. When you say probability, it does not mean कि कुछ होगा नहीं. If somebody says that the probability of testing positive in the RT-PCR test is 5%, does not mean that nobody will have or everybody will necessarily have. It means that 95% will test negative, 5% people will test positive. Correct. So that is how it is. So that is one. Number two, there are obviously regulators who are there whose function is to regulate the rating agency. They do an assessment. कि आपने बोला था कि आप AAA में इतना आपका डिफॉल्ट होगा, बट आपका डिफॉल्ट इतना है, so you tell us the reasons, etc. And then what are the reasons? Were there any lapses? Were there any completeness? Were there any lacuna in the completeness of the exercise? And what are the changes you are doing? How are you improving your system, processes, etc. They may even impose a fine on the rating agency saying that you have not done your work properly. And it would go on, so and so on and so forth. There are a lot of things they can do.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, you said yours regulator is two. One is SEBI and another is RBI. So, is the rating agencies have two regulators?
Main regulator. So, if you go by the Financial Stability Council or something, normally every sort of an agency, market intermediary will have one regulator, main regulator. But the functions may require multiple regulations. So SEBI is the main regulator for rating agencies, whereas because under Basel requirements, RBI requires the banks to take consider ratings of the credit rating agency for computing the capital requirements of the banks. So for that purpose, RBI is the regulator.
And my second question is this is a very basic and primary questions. In the case of MSME borrowers, under what limit they need to go by the rating by the credit rating agencies? Is it above 5 crore? What is the threshold limit? Is there any threshold limit?
No, so what I understand is in Basel 2, more than 5 crore is not treated as non-retail. So that is the genesis of 5 crores. Otherwise, I don't think 5 crores has any sanctity anywhere. That is one. Number two, the various banks under the RBI guidelines have various limits under which they require a credit rating. Some banks say 25 crores, some banks say 50 crores, some banks say I don't know what. So various banks have their own requirements.
And secondly, sir, why these banks always insist on rating by the two agencies, one from CARE, one from ICRA or whatever? Like they always insist because borrower does not want to get the rating done by two agencies. One is the due diligence process is so tough by the rating agencies, and secondly, the cost involvement. So is it mandated by the RBI or is it mandated by the commercial banks to have rating agencies from two independent rating agencies?
No, RBI does not mandate multiple ratings.
And third, my question is, sir, do these rating agencies go beyond the books and documents? Like you only go by the books and documents, or you also go beyond the books and documents also?
No. We certainly go beyond the book. And in fact, my advocacy internally has been that we should not look at books and documents at all. We should look at the company basis, the data in the market, what's happening. So now there's a very strong movement on using, let's say, GST returns and income tax return directly from the system to do a large part of the rating and just corroborate that with the accounts. So books and accounts probably for one part of the rating, but the dependency is going down on a daily basis. That much I can assure you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So what's a credit rating, what it is not, what is risk assessment, credit risk, different symbols, etc., and the process. Credit rating is a forward-looking exercise. So while we do use the annual reports, and that is the reason, Mr. Sangai, that while you use the annual reports, etc., but they are the past, and you actually use it as a fulcrum to do a forward look into what will happen. It is about using observable information available at a particular point of time to predict or project future outcomes. So it's based on whatever information I have. So in hindsight, one can always say that this should have been looked at and that should have been looked at, but that information probably was not available. So when I am talking in, let's say, June or July 2020, there was a scenario of COVID happening and lockdown happening and all that, and many companies were taking many steps. Now, most of the steps actually fructified, some steps did not fructify. But at that point of time, it was anybody's guess, and we used our best judgment to do an assessment of whether those steps would be achieved or not, and hence the ratings were given. In many cases, we felt that the steps may not be achieved or there may be difficulty, and probably the ratings were revised also. But it was, and after 3 months, the actual situation may have been totally different. But whatever it is, at that point of time when we actually did the assessment, there was a particular set of observable information which was taken into account. There are a lot of subjective elements in terms of the whole comfort with the borrower itself, the assessment of the industry, the assessment of the ecosystem in which the borrower operates, so on and so forth. And ultimately, a rating agency is as good as the investor. So it's not the borrowers who determine the rating agency's quality of life, but the investor. So if the investor does not accept your rating, you have a problem in life. Rating agency is not a recommendation. We don't say that you should invest or not invest. In the meantime, can people generally share the views on what they think was the rating for Kingfisher Airlines before it went into a default? So it is not an audit. The audit is done by the auditor. So we rely significantly on the auditors as far as the past accounts are concerned. And it is not a one-time evaluation. So you can't say that abhi kar diya, abhi karne ki kya zarurat hai. There is a continuous process. So at each point of time, it's at least 12 months ahead that you're looking at. So that is it. Yeah, just to remove some of the misconceptions, can people in the chat box give a rating of the, what do you think? It's not necessarily by CARE, but by any rating agency. What do you think was the rating of Kingfisher, say 1 or 2 years before it went into default? So we have one message, must be AA plus. Anybody else? We have an audience of about more than 65 plus, so probably people may have, others may have guesses.
You said when it was not in default, so Kingfisher Airlines was having a huge edge in the market. They were numero as far as services.
I'm not talking of the discussion. I'm saying whether there was an actual operating rating. What was the operating rating at the time?
Okay.
Just statement of facts. I'm not talking of an opinion. Anybody else?
Ratan Hariramji, what do you think was the rating of Kingfisher? Sir is asking.
Was AAA plus.
Please write it in the chat box, Hariramji. I was just asking a question which is a little different. Hariramji is written AAA plus. As you said, rating is a continuous exercise. Taking a leaf from your statement, I am just giving you an example as a live case study. Like a year before, just before COVID, cement companies were not performing well. All of a sudden, during pandemic and post-pandemic, the cement companies have started performing excellently very well because of their high use of the operating capacity, be it Dalmia Cement, be it Sri Cement, or be it Imami Cement even. So the rating agencies must have carried out their rating before the pandemic period, and all of a sudden, when their utilization operating capacity has increased per day. So do you feel that rating agency will interject and then they used to revise their rating? Or suo moto, do you take any cognizance of suo moto rating revision, or you do it only on the advice from the client only? How it is unfolded like?
So there are 2-3 ways. One is we do a formal yearly exercise known as surveillance. So we initiate that on a say 9 to 12 months basis, and then we start asking questions from the clients, and then we started doing our own whole sort of analysis, talking to the people and all that. So that is one very large piece of work which happens. Beyond that, we keep reviewing various industries, companies on a continuous basis, and then do a rating exercise of those companies. And in cement companies, what has happened is they have done much better than they themselves expected, and they have been able to maintain profit margins which was much better than what they expected. And in India, which has happened to practically all large companies in last 3-4 years, is that they have not borrowed much, whereas the loan, the additional cash flows have been used to repay the borrowings.
Leverage, right?
Because of that, what's happening is the funding available to repay the debt is significantly high, and it means very high actually. Some companies have cash coverage of means the ability to repay debt in 1 to 2 years. Some of them have a negative debt on cash basis, etc. So that has become very high. So with that, the companies, the ratings have been revised. Many of the cement companies' ratings have been revised, and in fact, they are at the very top end of the bracket. So a Dalmia or a JK or JK Lakshmi or whatever, most of them are practically at a AAA or a AA. Shree Cement has been a AAA for a long time because they have always had more cash than the debt on the book. So they were always been at a AAA level, and many of them are now at AA or AA plus, etc. So now we can see two clear-cut divisions in the whole India corporate ecosystem. So you have companies which have cash which is more than the debt requirements and the internal capex requirements, and they are able to deleverage themselves and gain a competitive position, and then give them a cost advantage, and hence the rating goes very high. Whereas the other set of corporates are actually struggling with the day-to-day cash flows, and then the banking system also does not support that. Other liabilities also does not support that, and then the ratings keep going down or are stagnant at a very low level. So that has been very prominent in, let's say, last 15 to 18 months, or probably 24 months.
Thank you, sir. One question is mine, sir. Can the SEBI is appoint a crediting agency, suo moto, and in what circumstances?
No, SEBI won't appoint a crediting agency.
SEBI never appoint any credit rating for any company.
I don't know if they have the powers, but till date, in 25 years, I've not seen anyone.
They are the regulators.
So in fact, India is the first country in the world where there are regulations on rating agencies. It was in 1999, whereas the US and all started regulating rating agencies in 2008.
Okay.
So what is the credit risk to investor? These are very important considerations. So economic loss from the failure of a counterparty to fulfill its contractual obligation. So that is the credit risk. आपने बोला था you will supply me say 100 bags of cement, you did not supply, and hence I lost money because I had to buy cement from outside, or my work did not get done. So that's an economic loss. Or replacing cash flows if the other party defaults. So I had taken 100 rupees from somebody and given it to you while you did not pay me, but I had to return my money. So I had to then borrow from somebody else, and that cost me money. So that is the credit risk. Credit is the cost of replacing cash flows if the other party defaults. So even in the case of cement, suppose I have to get 100 bags of cement from you when you did not pay. So I did not pay you anything for the 100 bags, but then I had to buy that from the market or something which cost me more money. So instead of, let's say, a 300 rupee bag, I had to buy it 400 rupees. So the 100 rupees per bag is the credit risk that I had. So what are the components of credit? These are very basic: probability of default, credit exposure, and loss given default. Exposure at default and loss given default, PD, LGD, and EAD. PD is what the rating agencies look at. They don't look at anything. So they don't look at loss given default and they don't look at credit exposure. They focus only on probability of default. So there are some businesses where even if you default, like let's say real estate or something, even if you default, but the lender on a long term probably does not lose much. Whereas some other businesses where once the default happens, then the let's say an EPC or something, if a default happens, then the lender loses everything. From a credit rating agency, from a pure probability assessment, we don't distinguish between the two. These are the various ratings in AAA, AA, single A, triple B. So anybody has any questions on what are investment grade, high investment grade? And then you have a plus or minus, except in AAA you don't have a plus or minus. In all other categories up to single B and C you have a plus and minus. So a triple B plus is lower than a minus and a plus is lower than a AA minus. Because
So
I have seen
what is the fine point of difference between high investment grade and investment grade, sir?
high investment grade means there's a level at which the probability of default should be very low.
Okay.
So what happens in India, some of the regulators, let's say IRD or PFRD, etc., or even AMFI, they have the emphasis that you should not invest in anything other than high investment grade.
And this is normally for the debt funds?
No, these ratings are for everything, but I'm saying the IRDA is for insurance companies, so they have a mandate to the insurance company that you will not invest in anything below a AA minus or something.
Okay.
Similarly, you have a A1, 2, 3, 4, which is on the liquidity scale. All these rating categories are common for all rating agencies. They are mandated by SEBI in terms of the definition and nomenclature. Then the long-term ratings also have an outlook. Positive means the upgrade is likely or expected. Stable means it's likely to remain at the same level. Negative means there could be downgrade. So A minus negative is better than a triple B plus positive. Let's be very clear on that. So A is better than triple B. So whatever happens to A, it will always remain better than triple B. It only means that the A minus negative means that there is a chance that the rating will go to a triple B plus or something. Whereas a triple B plus positive means the rating could probably travel up to A minus. Who are the beneficiaries of credit rating? There are investors, issuers, financial market regulators, and financial intermediaries. For the lender, it helps them planning for riskier assets. It gives them sustainability in the business. It helps them in decision making. So you can say that I will not lend in less than triple B minus or something. Then the smaller cases need not come to you, and you can have a faster decision making process for a better rated or whatever. So in fact, we recently had regulators use this in a negative sense that for partial guarantee, they said anything rated AA and above will not be allowed for a partial guarantee. In terms of the risk management, it reduces the information symmetry because we do a press release and the rationale. So by reading that, you know things which the borrower may or may not tell you. And it helps you to give an independent credit opinion and manage your capital adequacy. To an investor, especially in the capital market, it helps in investment decision. The rating agencies do yearly monitoring at least, and sometimes do monitoring frequently at that. And that helps you to take care of any sudden risk which may have come in, you may not realize. Suppose there is a fire in a plant or the sales for the product has suddenly gone down. You may not be able to do the monitoring, but a rating agency which does the monitoring on a regular basis will come out with a update in terms of if it's an important matter. For enterprises, it has a third-party opinion. With the rating, you can go to various rating banks and lenders, etc., and even to your suppliers and customers. Because I have seen many logistics companies, etc., go to the parties and say that my rating is good and my ability to service you is good, and hence I should be given a better term. You can have better recognition. It helps you with your business counterparts for opening letter of credit, awarding contracts, etc. So many government agencies, etc., have a rating requirement that your rating should be so much before you apply for the contract. For the issuers, the higher the rating, you get a lower cost, and so on and so forth. The regulators benefit because it then allows them to do a macro management. So they may just say that the bank should have a risk weightage for the assets as per the Basel II Accord. And then they don't have to get into each asset. They can say on a very overall basis what is the risk weightage of the assets of the banker. And the insurance and the pension and the mutual fund regulator, they insist on a minimum rating as an eligible rating category. It helps everybody monitor the financial soundness, and it promotes efficiency in the security market. The intermediaries can use ratings as input for decision making, for pricing, returns, placement of lending and investments. So this is the rating process. There is a rating agreement which the business development team does with the client, and then it moves over to the rating analytic function. So they are Chinese walls actually. The business development team cannot discuss rating, and the rating team cannot discuss pricing. So the agreement is where the business development team brings the client in, then it's an analyst, a group head, rating head, sector head. The analyst and the group head do the meeting with the clients, etc. The internal control teams are there. Then we have a rating committees. It's a multi-layered process. There are a lot of benchmarks and a lot of emphasis on the analytical excellence. And at the end of the day, we do a press release or rationale which explains how the rating was arrived at. So even if you're looking at your competitor rating, you look at the press release rationale. You want to invest in stock market and want to understand the company or its competitors, you look at the rating or the rationale, press release or the rationale. So there are a lot of things about the press release and rationale. You want to understand something, you look at the press release and rationale. It gives you a lot of information. So we do say about 5,000 company ratings. Similarly, other rating agencies do about 10 to 11,000. So about 13,000-14,000 companies press release rationale by a third party is available to you in the domain, in the internet domain. And that can give you a very substantial, while you are doing, let's say, you want to put in some equity money in some company, you can do this as an integral part of your due diligence that you do. There is a question that in spite of taking the best effort carrying as per the still what as per you the principal reason for failure for borrower in spite of a good rating. So one reason for failure has been there were frauds internally. So either in terms of being able to disclose the situation or in terms of some frauds which were committed deliberately and hidden from the auditors and the internal staff, etc., and the lenders. So that is one reason where a lot of rating changes have happened. So now we have put in internal system to try to tackle fraud also, but there's a limit to which you can tackle fraud. We are not an investigating agency. The other is there is a sudden change in the ecosystem which people don't realize. So this, like today, digitalization is going on, and many of the industries will change. The changes happen on an incremental basis for 2-3 years, and suddenly the whole system gathers so much steam that it just jumps off. It takes a hockey stick turn, and most of the companies don't realize that the changes are coming, and hence probably at certain places even the rating agency may not be able to decipher that, and that is what happens. So you see right now, let's say the telecom industry itself. So you had companies which are rated AAA and AA, and their costs were very high, and rates, despite being slightly lower than the international standard, but by Indian standard they were very high. So you had so they were allowing a lot of delta for anybody to enter the market, and new people used to fight with each other to enter the market and grab the easy money available. Suddenly a huge player came in and took away all the delta. And suddenly companies which are rated AA, managed by the best corporate houses of the country, by huge multinationals which have global presence, etc., suddenly you are found wanting. And then the rating actually had to downgrade, and in certain cases probably default would also have happened. In certain cases, while there are 2-3 companies of a borrower, in one of the other personal companies which is not there, that has a problem. And then to make up that, the borrower diverts money or business resources from that from the better companies to the worse company, and that takes the whole group into a trouble. So these are the many reasons I can think. I mean, there could be many things else. If anybody in the audience has any better reason or some similar reason, we can discuss that. Yeah, technology is going to be a big disruptor. It could also be a big enabler. I mean, it's not necessarily disruption. So we've seen fintechs coming in. So 3-4 years back, it looked as if the fintechs will take over the financial market. Today we see State Bank, etc., take benefit of technology and emerge much stronger. Today, State Bank has a 2 lakh crore unsecured book, which gives a pretty high yield, based on largely based on technology. So technology means what happens is the larger player has an ability to put in much better resources for technology adoption, where the smaller player may be nimbler, but the ability to invest in the technology and take the benefit of technology may not be very high. So these are various things which are developing and one has to take up. So our own internal, let's say NBFC fintech rating is at a low level right now, because we see larger NBFCs put in hundreds of crores and then suddenly they have a very good technology platform for end-to-end processing, which smaller fintechs don't have the access to market, they don't have access to customers, etc. So how much data can you get and how much work can you do? So these are very developing situations. Why do you need a credit rating? You can benchmark yourself against global best practices. It can be preparatory doc for debt raising. It can be used as a marketing tool. It can mean authenticated information for partners. You reduce your cost of debt, and then the end result is you improve your bottom line or your competitiveness in the market. So we did a survey as it is. I think our guys would not have done survey of people who were negatively impacted by dating. So you have all the positive things to say. These things are done by the business development team. But most of the respondents were in the double B, triple B category. Most of them actually were medium and small enterprises in this. So this is the process. The rating agency requires information, including operational detail. We prepare the note. We do a plant and site visit, management discussion. Then it goes to the committee. The committee gives the rating. The rating is informed to the client. If the client wants to use the rating, then they have to give an acceptance. If they don't want to use, then they need not give an acceptance. But if you have given an acceptance once, then till the life of the instrument, that rating is valid. Whether you have a problem later on or not, does not matter. If you have, let's say, borrowed a term loan of 5 years and you have given an acceptance for a rating, and tomorrow your position deteriorates and the rating agency downgrades, you can't do anything. The rating will continue to be live, and you can't say that now I don't accept. This is one key issue which happens. People say that last year you took an acceptance, this year I'm not giving you because you have downgraded. And now SEBI has come out with a guideline saying that even if the issuer does not give you information, you have to put it under issuer not cooperating. So you have to do the assessment based on market information. अगर मेरे पास data नहीं रहेगा तो मैं I will give a bad rating compared to what I would have given otherwise. So you don't have an option. माने आपने अगर एक बार accept कर लिया तो the rating is permanent.
And how about migration to the other rating agencies, sir? Like in the last year, if I did it from CARE, can I do it from the ICRA in the current year or from the other rating?
No, you'll have to take a NOC from all the lenders saying that I don't want to get it done by CARE, I want to get it done by ICRA. If they give, all of them give, then it's okay. So if anyone does not give, say you have 4 lenders, 100 crore, one lender is 100 crore, other is 30 crore, other is 25 crore, and one is 5 crore. If the 5 crore lender does not give, then either you repay the loan and close this account, or the CARE will continue to do the rating.
So the lender's dictum will have to be followed.
Yeah. And generally what happens for larger lenders, the banks are still okay to give a NOC. For smaller lenders, they are not. And then what happens is the rating agency does information on the best available information. So the rating is moved from a triple B to double B. In fact, SEBI says that if you don't get cooperation within 6 months, you move it to speculative grade. So we had a client known as Bristone, where there was a huge fraud. So the new team came in from some other company. They thought that CARE was also, because CARE was given a mandate during that time, they thought it was also part of the fraud. So they said, we don't want to cooperate with you. And obviously the company did not have any debt, being a Japanese company and all that. And our rating was AAA. And then we kept explaining to them, saying that the rating is required as per the guidelines of SEBI. So they did not give. So we had to bring them to double B. So for 1 year or 6 months, the rating was at BB. Then the bankers went and explained to the company people. I think some Japanese people had come, so they explained to them, saying that this what you're doing is not right as per the current regulation. So again, they started cooperating, and then the rating came back to AAA. So not paying fees as per SEBI is also non-cooperation. So you may give all the information, but if you don't give the fees, the rating agency will put to non-cooperation. In non-cooperation, in 6 months, will come to speculative grade. So we have overshot the time. I could keep going on and on.
Hariram ji,
Yes, sir.
Sir is asking.
Yeah, we can conclude the session with any concluding remark.
Actually, sir has been allotted less time, about 15 minutes. We were supposed to start at 6 o'clock, but because of.
No, that is okay, because the earlier discussion was very good. So
your discussion is also pretty good, sir. I am really enjoying from 5:15 onwards. I am enjoying every bit of it.
No, my question is to the audience that you have a senior member of your, let's say, the professional community. So if there are any live issues you want to get resolved, we can discuss it right now.
Any case studies is there, then we can definitely. Mr. Sasi Kamani have raised his hand since long. Sasi ji, you want to unmute yourself? You can definitely unmute and can ask the question directly from the Sanjay sir. Sasi ji, are you there? He has raised his hand since long, so perhaps he must be having some question in his mind. I don't know. So I believe he is not there anymore.
Yes, sir.
Sasi ji, you have a question with the sir?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Regarding this RBI requirement for rating done by NBFC companies. So, which rating agencies actually? What is the rating? Which rating agencies are doing this? Basically,
I did not get what you're saying.
Many NBFCs are required to be rated by this RBI.
Why?
Reserve Bank of India.
नहीं क्यों rating क्यों चाहिए?
सर वो 45 IC RBI NBFC की गाइडलाइंस हैं, उसमें RBI का प्रिस्क्रिप्शन है कि each and every NBFC need to be credit rated. So that credit rating is a mandatory provisions as per the RBI Act, NBFC provisions. So therefore, Mr. Kamani's question is based on that only.
RBI has, I think, 7 rating agencies authorized by it. So you can get rating from any one of them.
Actually, many rating agencies, they are declining. They are saying we are not doing it. So
why would anybody say that? You send a
I don't know.
I'll look after it. Why would somebody say कि मैं rating नहीं करूँगा? मुझे तो नहीं.
There are only 4 rating agencies in the panel of this RBI. It's something ridiculous. I don't understand. And the RBI is asking to get it rated through all the 4 companies.
No.
What is the basic purpose behind this? I don't know.
No, it can't be all for any one hoga. Even if RBI wants a rating, it will be any one, and you can send a mail to me. I'll look into it. If RBI wants a rating, the rating has to be given. इसमें कोई option नहीं. Unless there is a misunderstanding.
Sanjay sir, ये prescription है. RBI has prescribed कि you need to, any NBFC company need to be rated by the any rating agencies. और उनकी rating agencies कोई भी आप choose कर सकते हैं. So in fact, as per the mandate, you need to create rated at least from 4 of them. So it is very cost prohibitive. So people are getting at least from 1 or 2. They, as per the circular, they are saying you please get it rated by 4 of the rating agencies. Not 1, not 2, but 4.
मैंने वो drafting error होगा. It can never happen. I don't think
it has not been escalated from any association's level so far. But I think Kamani ji, this is what the mandate is, na? Whether I am on the same page, Mr. Kamani?
Yes, please. Yes, sir. You are right on the
page. कौन सा section है RBI का?
सर मैं आपको, if you want, I can share it with you. हरिराम जी, आपके पास है क्या 45 IC का रेगुलेशन जहां पर क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसीज को, मैंने एनबीएफसीज को क्रेडिट रेटिंग एजेंसी से रेटिंग करवानी मस्ट है?
दिल्ली अवेलेबल नहीं है मेरे पास.
सो मैं आपको शेयर कर दूंगा संजय सर आपकी मेल आईडी में. इट इज अ मैंडेटरी प्रोविजंस बाय आरबीआई फॉर एनबीएफसी कंपनीज.
शुरुआत में आपका इंट्रोडक्टरी पेजेस तक बना देंगे, उसको खाली आप रीड आउट कर दीजिएगा, ताकि उसके बाद क्या जो क्वेश्चंस होंगे पूछ सकेंगे.
कमलेश जी, आपके पास वो प्रोविजंस रेडीली अवेलेबल है क्या?
आरबीआई सेक्शन 45
I A कैपिटल A. Yes, sir. Hi.
इसमें क्रेडिट रेटिंग का तो कुछ लिखा नहीं है।
सर सर सेपरेट नोटिफिकेशंस वगैरह हैं, सर सर्कुलर्स वगैरह आए हुए हैं सर इस पे,
कौन से
दैट इज
साल
नॉट
में आए हैं?
स्पेसिफिक काइंड ऑफ, वो दैट आई हैव टू गो थ्रू इट, बट रिमेंबर एग्जैक्टली आप टू सी, बट दिस इज अ रिक्वायरमेंट।
ये मैंडेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट है सर।
मैंडेटरी रिक्वायरमेंट है।
नहीं, डिपॉजिट टेकिंग के लिए होगा।
नहीं सर, नॉन
डिपॉजिट टेकिंग कंपनी के लिए भी है।
ठीक है,
मैंने डिपॉजिट टेकिंग के लिए तो है ही है, बट नॉन डिपॉजिट टेकिंग कंपनी के लिए भी है सर।
And basically it is for loan companies only, not for investment companies. If the company is only in investment business, then it is not required.
ठीक है, आप शशि जी आप मेल कर दीजिए मुझे, अभी आई टेक इट अप।
सर जनवरी 15 2015 DBR CID BC 5926056।
तो मैं अनशेयर करूँ, आप शेयर करेंगे क्या?
जी जी, तो मेरे पास में हार्ड कॉपी है सर, मेरे पार्टनर ने मुझे हार्ड कॉपी दी है। ये ओरिजिनल सर्कुलर है February 6 2015 का। उन्होंने नाम भी दिया है सर, इक्विफॉक्स का, एक्सपीरियन क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन कंपनी, क्रिफ माहिमा क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन सर्विसेज।
No, so नहीं, these are not credit rating agencies, these are credit information bureau.
Okay.
So credit information bureau will, so I think that that may be mandatory. The credit information bureau would need to have information on your clients, etc. So that is what they want.
Okay.
So these are not credit rating agencies, these are credit information bureaus. This is like CIBIL and all that.
Okay.
Okay.
Like in the case of land, CERSAI is there. You need to get it registered in CERSAI.
Anuj, should we wind up the session?
Yes, with the permission of the Sanjay sir only.
That's it from my side. Any question there? तो ठीक है, I'm good.
सर वो किंगफिशर एयरलाइंस का वो रेटिंग क्या था, मैं मिस कर गया था।
किंगफिशर एयरलाइंस का कोई रेटिंग नहीं था, बिकॉज लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ द बोरोइंग वाज अगेंस्ट लोन अगेंस्ट शेयर्स एंड ऑल दैट, उसका कोई रेटिंग था नहीं।
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. Now I request our co-chairman of Banking and Finance Committee, Sri Ratan Ji Banka, to offer a hearty vote of thanks to the learned speakers. And before Ratan Ji is giving a hearty vote of thanks, let me offer a e-memento to Sanjay sir. Now I share this e-memento to Sanjay sir. Sir, this is a token of love and appreciation from ACAE, this e-memento, and we will forward it in your mail and WhatsApp.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. As I said earlier, so addressing a group of corporate advisors from Calcutta is like addressing my alma mater. Yeah. So that is where I've put in most of my formative years and understood and been whatever I am here today. So I thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity and giving me this moment.
Thank you. Mr. Sri Ratan Ji Banka, please offer a hearty vote of thanks to the speakers. Ratan Ji.
Good evening, our guests and present respected members, our presidents and chairman. On the behalf of a chartered accounting study, ERC Circle, I give my immense pleasure to deliver of thanks of July gathering here, and we come to VCM of the Internet Banking Transforming India. I would like to especially thank all the guests. They are given the busy schedules. We give us the inspiring speech which will guide us throughout the year. I give my great pleasure to extending my sincere thanks to all our today guests, who is encouraging to guide us to reach greater heights. Further, I wish all thanks to member of our circles and our president and secretary and chairman. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay sir. I am really indebted to you because it was a first phone call in the evening a couple of days back only, and you have instantly accepted our invitation from Association of Corporate Advisors, and actually you rescued us. Honestly, sir, I must share with you, we have another speaker for this particular round, but he has some emergency landed up at his doorstep and he need to travel from Mumbai to Bangalore. So you know him personally, I believe. He is Mr. Vipin Saraf. So
Okay.
you have come to our rescue, sir. It is actually, I'm indeed very, very grateful to you. And sir, moreover, I was not aware ki my own alma mater, my senior brother, Sri Mahadevji Agarwal is so close to you. Ratan Banka and Mahadev Da. Ratan Banka, who is the co-chairman of this committee, Ratan Banka is also not aware कि Mahadev Da is related to you. Ratan, are you aware of this factual data? Ratan, are you aware of this factual data? Ratan, I am talking to you.
No, I don't know.
So you should be aware of this कि Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, I got to know today only कि Sanjay Ji Agarwal is related to our own ex-Podarian Mr. Mahadev Agarwal. I stayed in the same year when Mahadev Da was there. He is much senior to me, and he was awarded during my tenure when I've entered PCN. He was awarded Ramaiya of the Year award. He has moderated a session on Companies Act where a couple of Podarians were there. So he was moderated the session very, very lively. I have entered into that year only. I get to know all these factual data today only. So Sanjay sir, I am really grateful to you. Eventually, like now it is seeing I am talking to one of my family member only. Kurseong is a beautiful place. Mahadev Da, I wish I would like you please say a few words for Sanjay ji. Before this, I was not aware. I was requesting. I told you in the morning also कि when I called up Sanjay ji, he was so polite and so humble. In one instant, in one go, on my one phone call, he immediately accepted ACA's invitation. Before even explaining him कि what exactly is the ACA, how old is the organization is, who are our members, what is the members profile. It is like 60 years old organization. Even I could utter all these things. Sanjay sir has said, okay, I agree to this, and this is my mail ID. I'll be sharing you my mail ID, and please send me the formal invitation. So Sanjay sir, ACA is really grateful to you for accepting our invitation, that too at the last moment. We are really humbled, and we offer our gratitude. तहे दिल से आपका आभार व्यक्त करते हैं सर कि आपने हमें लास्ट मोमेंट में आपने इस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक को लेकर के डेलिब्रेट करने का तो वी आर रियली थैंकफुल टू यू. महादेव दा, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे? सरदेह महादेव दा.
अरे अनूप, संजय या और फैमिली मेंबर, संजय से तो कुछ भी, संजय को तो ऑर्डर कर सकते हैं, संजय को तो हम तो रिक्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं. संजय ने जो भी कहा एकदम अंदर की प्रैक्टिकल बात कही है. कोई भी हाई फ्लोन चीज कुछ नहीं कहा. उन्होंने जो रियल अंदर की बात जो बोलते हैं ना, अपने मावड़ी में बोलते हैं ना, गुड़ की बात बोले हुए हैं. और संजय तो रियली ही जलवे. संजय जब भी बम्बई जाता हूँ तो बहुत मजा आता है, संजय के साथ घूमते फिरते हैं. अनूप, इट वाज रियली, हमको सुन के बहुत अच्छा लगा. सवेरे तुम तो बताया नहीं मेरे को, सवेरे संजय ही बताया कि अनूप का फोन था. हमने कहा चलो ये तो अपने घर का ही प्रोग्राम है.
महादेव दा, मुझे जानकारी नहीं थी कि संजय रिलेटेड टू यू, ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग. So Sanjay ji, I was not aware कि you are related to Pudar Chhatra Niwas by any way. So it was really like मुझे लगा कि जब महादेव दा has shared with data with me in the morning, so I was so thrilled. मतलब जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, there was a goosebumps. So I was so thrilled कि I will be having in the Sanjay sir session in the evening. So he was talking, you are an ex-Gothels. So I told कि yes, I know the profile of the Gothels members, how the Gothels members are. We were having Gothels members in our hostel also during my era. I have shared this data also. So Mahadev da told कि you are from Kurseong. So that was also a very good thing कि you hail from the hilly region of West Bengal, and then you relocated yourself to the Mumbai. So great, sir, great. And ACA is definitely looking forward towards you in our future sessions also. Every year we used to organize our banking conclave in a physical mode. And during this pandemic only, we could not organize these things. So we have our data saved with you, sir. Definitely we'll be in touch with you for the coming years also, or any coming sessions. So many thanks, sir, and hearty thanks from core of hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
introduce Hariramji Agarwal. Is a we call it the Neta. He's a treasurer of EIRC. He's a EIRC Eastern India Regional Council. He's a treasurer presently, and he is also fighting for the elections in the country because end of this year the elections are due. So Hariramji is also our Banking Conclave Committee chairman. So he is the person instrumental in organizing this entire 2 days banking conclave. So heads off to Hariramji Agarwal. He used to follow up with you also, and he was little afraid कि संजय जी से बार-बार बात करेंगे संजय जी नाराज तो नहीं हो जाएंगे. तो हम बोले यार ज्यादा बात मत करो, मैं ही बात कर लूंगा regarding topic and all. So now we are feeling very comfortable in talking to you, sir. Many thanks, many thanks.
So
बहुत अच्छा लगा सर, बहुत अच्छा.
Anup ji, I would only like to say कि having Rajiv Ji, who's not just my GIG, but he's also my mentor. So he's the person who's responsible for my becoming a chartered accountant, reaching this position. So I'm very thankful that you included me in a session where he is also a member. और ये दिल की बात है कि means somebody whom you appreciate and respect so much is in the audience where you are speaking. So it's like something for me. And I thank both you and Hariramji for taking so much efforts of calling me and ensuring that the structure is in place and having this session. Thank you very much, and I thank all the members out there.
Being chairman of Banking and Finance Committee, I thank and congratulate Mr. Anup Kumar Sangai, President of ACI, for giving me an opportunity to organize 2 days marathon banking conclave, and with the new concept and new ideas and new topics and different 6 speakers in 2 days, and 6 hour CP, and that too free of charge, and more than 400 members have registered in this program. And kudos and thanks to Anupji Sangai and our co-chairman Ratanji Banka and all the team, Vivek Agrawal and Nikki ma'am, who has supported throughout in organizing this program. And again, a big thanks to all the members, delegates who have joined the program. Without huge active participation, the program would not have been so successful. So thanks once again to all of this team, which have made me proud of holding this seminar and ease of organizing this seminar. Thanks to one and all. Thank you.
So with the permission of our guest speaker,